Vigilante War, Case 007, Killing for Content. Script by Joseph and Marisha Cautilli. Based on a short story novella by Joseph Cautilli, Marisha Cautilli, and Peter Kim. Director and producer, Roma Gray. Executive producer credits, Marisha and Joseph Cautilli. Narrated by Joshua Banks and Shanalee Carton. Daisy Thorne would do anything for her fans. Tonight, under the neon-saturated blue-red sky, she'd prove it. The payoff would be millions of upvotes and thousands of new followers, flooding her profile on UpDown. Her reputation as number one is on the line. Earlier that day, she joined the loud protest outside EarthCore, towering stronghold. Holographically created and traditional protest signs dance. The hollows explode in multicolored light. The crowd is furious. Alberto Berladucci, one of the city's most notorious drug lords, had finally been arrested, only for EarthCore to swoop in and block the local justice system from putting him on trial. Her fans were livid. Daisy has no choice. They pushed her to scream, to lead the charge, and she did. Her Black Horizon Core leather choker's feedback lights flash an electric blue with each howl. Feedback from her implanted fan network buzzing in the back of her skull. They love her. Otherwise, the choker would flash a disappointed red. The most devout followers see everything through her eyes, while others prefer the eye-level view from her floating phone cam, always hovering a few feet around her. Overall, it allows her crazy fans to view her, and her crazier ones to be her. While she could shut off the floating camera, as long as she's alive, the collar would not turn off. By nightfall, the peaceful protest turned electric. Daisy breaks away from the crowd, knowing what they want. Refusing them meant a death sentence. Not for her body, but for her income, her fame. Her soul feels empty, her body numb.
I can't let some wannabe take my spot. Not Cassidy Rabbit. Not anyone.
The fans egg her on. If Alberto wouldn't pay the price, she'd find another dealer to serve justice to. The approval rolls in like a surge of power. Daisy's fingers tighten around the small pistol in her jacket as she creeps through the alleyways, stepping over a twitching addict sprawled in the filth. Piss pools over his pants and next to his body. His stench gags her. A lookout stands near a rusted neon green dumpster as protection for some low-life dealer poisoning her streets. Daisy's boots make no sound as she approaches, her pistol drawn. The guy glances up, catching her just as she got close. "Lady, you shouldn't be here. Ain't safe." Her hand shakes, the weight of the fans pressing on her mind more than the fear. She fires. The bullet tears through his gut, and the muscle crumples before the report even reaches her ear. Dark red blood bathes the alley floor and splatters on the alley walls and her shirt. Behind him, the dealer looks up mid-transaction, eyes widening in shock. What the? Too late. Daisy squeezes a trigger again, the shot catching him in the shoulder. His buyer scatters into the night while she advances, cold, relentless. 2 more shots. The dealer hits the ground, bleeding out, losing control of his bowel and bladder. Sirens wail in the distance as a surveillance drone buzzes overhead, its red eye blinking. Cops close in fast. Daisy's heart races, but the fans roars in her head, thrilled by the violence, the chaos. She isn't registered as a bounty hunter. This means trouble, jail time, lawyers, in a messy trial. But it didn't matter. Anonymous 187 had suggested the hit, and she delivered. That's all her fans cares about. The sirens grow louder. Police lights bathe the alley in red and blue. Officers pour out, guns drawn, shouting commands. Hands up! Down on the ground! Now! Daisy raises her hands, the weight of the night sinking in. The cops cuff her, forcing her to the ground, and for the first time, the buzz of approval in her skull was drowned out by cold reality. Cassidy Buckley feels pressure to expose herself. The burdens of vulnerability linger louder than they did before in her mind. Her mind drifts back to the beginning. She innocently started on the Quantum Network with a tripod and digital camera bought on sale from a dealer who claimed it fell off the back of a delivery drone. Social media appeared like it could be a place to express her dreams. In her cardboard box-sized efficiency apartment, armed with nothing but her camera and a dream, she finally dared to hit the record button. Thus, a new career had started. Cassie uploaded confessionals, discussing her day, the different boy bands she liked, and the multiple celebrities who she crushed. 2 videos later, she changed her name from Cassidy Wilhelmina Buckley to her stage name, Cassidy Rabbit. Those first videos of her efficiency apartment with a draw-down bed were amateurish, but charmingly authentic. When the squeaky metal bed frame was down, she called it her bedroom, and when it was up, her living room. The cherry brown wood on the floor reflected light into her eyes and tinged them red. It took her 3 videos to figure out how to fix the problem. The content reflected that she was socially conscious, personable, and funny. The number of subscribers on her channel grew, especially when she added a biofeedback music interface to her show to enhance her presence, at the encouragement of one of her viewers, SinPaul29. As someone who never felt exceptionally bright and feared a life on basic income, it flattered her that others would come to see her creations and hear her speak. And then, seemingly overnight, her status transformed. It wasn't about talking about her passions anymore, but about getting the next big viral hit. She revamped her room's color scheme, adding pink and blue neon lights. Her first big expenditure was an indoor pink and blue glass wall fountain. While completely out of her budget, it was liberating to have it in the room, and a sign she made it. She manipulated neon to evoke whatever the mood called for. Soundscapes followed layered synth beats and an atmospheric drones, all meticulously crafted to weave tension or ease the audience. Her fans and large companies, like Hansen Corporation, sent by mail to her P.O. box free advanced fashion manufacturing apparel to wear on her show. This was not cheap stuff, but it was top of the line. From there, she weaponized her sewing skills to hack the fashion industry and rebrand the outfits into her own style. Not just a trend follower, but a setter. Maybe that was the beginning of what broke her. But she conned herself into believing that each tale she recorded would bend this medium to her will and serve as a middle finger to the system, but more importantly, enlighten the soul. Each video was an act of defiance. Unfortunately, by the 75th video, she fell in love with her audience and became their obedient servant. They took away her emptiness. For once, she felt like she belonged. 100 videos later, Up Down sent her a Horizon Core brand content collar, a black choker capable of streaming her every movement 24/7, and a floating video camera to follow her around. She fiddled with it in her fingers for 5 minutes before finally putting it on. She got a spinal tap from tentacle-like wiring piercing out of the collar and into her nervous system through her back. Immediately, she vomited and had a momentary headache. At first, she had no idea what it meant, and maybe that was for the best, as she might have backed out. Soon, it was clear that what Cassie saw, they saw, and wherever Cassie went, they could join, even in the bathroom, if they paid enough. The Platinum member fans could be in her ear 24/7, saying whatever they wanted. And when they were displeased, like when Cassie was tired and wanted to go to bed early, or she didn't wear the pajamas her fans liked, she could be downvoted and harassed. Their taunts sometimes woke her from sleep and forced her to stay up, bleary-eyed, obeying their commands. Obey. She did. And her upvotes grew. The funny thing about a community reinforcing her behavior was they made it feel right. She soon viewed the world as her fans trained her to see it. But in controlling her, she directed them to a minor degree. If verbally punished, she felt shame. When she got extremely stressed, she lied to her fans by saying she had a headache, covered her collar with a black cap she built herself, dabbed on patchouli oil, put on her dark sunglasses and flower print bell-bottom jeans with sequins, and ate a sandwich at Darknet Deli. There, she met with her friend from Atlanta's punk scene, Shanalee Chai, and the two commiserated about the world. Some of what the fans wanted, at least early on, felt therapeutic for her. She was always a bit shy about her body, but loved to dance. One of the early requests by St. Paul 29 was to dance shirtless on the top of her apartment building. At first, she danced around the request, all soft smiles and half-hearted excuses, before finally agreeing. Figured she'd give it a try, all the while keeping one eye on her status and the other on her gut, waiting for the fallout. When her views surged was the moment. She lost all dignity and did not care. Up on the roof, she cranked up the hamster dance song by Hampton the Hamster, peeled off her faded yellow cramps tee, and let loose, dancing half naked under the rainbow of neon city lights. Her core fans ate it up, St. Paul 29 included, flooding the feed with praise. The likes shot up, 2,000 strong, and pride of achievement surged in her. Pushing the limits felt good, real good. Riding that high, Cassie decided to take things further, leading her more exclusive followers, including St. Paul 29, behind circuit-embedded LED curtains and into the bedroom as the night dragged on. Her instincts were,
You guys love watching me.
The amazing thing was, the next day, there were no regrets, and when the story came out about her triumph, she gained over 10,000 likes.
Thank you for all the love.
A devoted fan base soon developed. Her crowd loved and nurtured her, or so it seemed. These were feelings not experienced since the loss of her mother. Her fans always wanted to know, what did she want in the future? What were her dreams of in a world that felt more machine than human? In a moment of vulnerability, Cassie said,
Real meat. Not that synthetic shit at Darknet Deli. Shout out to my friend Shailene, the Shinto queen at Darknet Deli. Sorry, been eating that synthetic stuff for too long.
Little by little, she let those guarded fantasies slip through the cracks, spilling into the feed. To her surprise, they didn't just listen, they mirrored her desires, like they were hardwired to the same lost dreams. The lines blurred between herself and them, each stream tightening the connection until their voices were hers, their hopes a digital echo in her head. The isolation that once gripped her faded in the glow of neon screens, replaced by the strange warmth of a collective consciousness, raster, burned into her mind. It didn't matter if they actually cared. It felt more real than anything she'd felt in the concrete jungle outside her window. But her fans wanted more, always more. They didn't just crave her content, they wanted control, to own every part of her. No matter what she put out, it was never enough. Their hunger was insatiable. More, more, more. One of them, bold enough to cross a line, brought up her race, suggesting she start taking procreation pills. As her fingers brushed the cold leather of her choker, she tried to push back gently, explaining she wasn't sexually active. His reply? He'd fix that for her. The crude joke, or maybe it wasn't, lit a fuse in her chest. Rage burned through her, but all she could do was kill the feed. The screen went black. 200 fans were gone in a blink. The silence that followed made her heart pound like a trapped animal, the weight of it all pressing in. The next night, Cassie was back on her stream, offering up an apology. Her voice hollow, trying to claw her way out of the corner they pushed her into. In some ways, the process eroded her fundamental values, or maybe there were never any. Instead, the values were held in the traditions she trained in. Her mind spun in circles, trying to grasp at her true beliefs. But her fans didn't care about her soul-searching. They just wanted the show. When they asked, Cassie devoured 17 cheeseburgers in one setting, filming it like some grotesque spectacle. She recalled hurling up the contents of her stomach immediately after filming the Korean-style mukbang video. Shame gnawed at her, but the fans ate it up. The likes poured in, and with them, the money. Enough to finally open a bank account. The irony wasn't lost on her, sacrificing her dignity for a deposit slip, like climbing the corporate ladder. Hell, celebrity life worked in that manner. Up votes meant cash. The more votes, the more coins in her bank account. Like any job, the more she obtained, the more expenses she could pay. Things to be paid off, like her growing medical bills, side projects, or whatever dream she pursued to escape Atlanta's anxiety-provoking life. For Cassidy Rabbit, it meant earning enough for a one-way plane ticket to Japan with her buddy, V-Boy. Over the years, she debated setting up a Give Me Money page, but this felt better for her. It wasn't charity, but earning her way out. As a child, her mother always preached.
Now, sugar, let me tell you something. It all comes down to personal responsibility. You gotta own your choices, sweetie. Flash that pretty smile of yours and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, just like the good Lord intended.
This story was easy for her mother to give, as the Buckleys were wealthy. But after a brief affair with a girl named Abigail Pollock, Cassie refused the money and the surrender came with it.
Looks like I'll have to carve out my own damn path. No one's gonna do it for me.
In this sense, being a media Marvin fit the family values. Indeed, her estranged brother was also in the entertainment field, although he did not know of her job. But Up-Down worked oppositely, too. If she put something out the fans didn't like, they could tank her with downvotes. Cassie saw it once. A streamer who uploaded a video titled Me and My Pussy, only for fans to click it and be disappointed to see her on the bed petting her cat, Marbles. Her legion of fans downvoted her to oblivion. Marbles climbed a chair in her living room the following day, while the entertainer hung herself with an electrical cord. The woman kicked and shook as she dangled from the cord. Her face transformed from red to blue, and her eyes bulged from their sockets. It was then Cassie knew that enough downvotes and leaving subscribers, or worse, an extremely bad encounter with fans, could decimate her whole life by the end of the day. Thus, when the government offered to regulate the industry to prevent abuses, and Cassie's fans opposed it, she vehemently sided with her fans. She argued the workers needed only to be more direct and creative with their content. When the unions came in, as they did in the sex worker industry, to ensure content distributors were fair in their disbursement of funds, once her fans opposed thinking their costs would go up, she opposed, arguing unions were not needed, as the industry was professional and should better their content. Suicide was a common experience for those who were used up. Fighting the emptiness became a common complaint among some in the industry. Others turned a cocktail of drugs and even turned into content. Funny enough, she got 1 million upvotes for the video opposing unionization, but Sinpol 29 dropped off her fan list for some reason. Angry at first, she knew how the system was set up. She would never find Sinpol 29 or even see if the person were a man or a woman. Cassie claimed to understand her fans on a deeper level, but the truth was simpler. They'd turn on her if she ever slipped. Sometimes she dreamed of breaking free from it all. Maybe her most devoted followers, the ones who convinced themselves they loved her, would have backed her up. But the rest, they'd never let her go. Once, she told her audience she loved them. Deep down, she wasn't sure. She loved the attention, the surge of likes and comments. But the people? Hard to say. Maybe that was her deeper understanding, knowing how to keep them hooked. Still, it became routine, dropping the
"I love you"
at least once a show. The result? More comments, more engagement, and that was what mattered. More comments meant more people spending time with her. Then came a fateful night. The neon cityscape blazes with a kaleidoscope of colors, casting a harsh glow from the 23rd floor of Araceli Berladucci's high-rise. Through the massive glass pane, she gazes down at the river of headlights and taillights streaming along the highway below. Her mind drifts, pondering how many of those vehicles are autonomous. White plastic traffic drones zip by, ready to issue instant fines to any lawbreakers. Squinting, she makes out the outlines of a homeless encampment atop a 10-story building.
"Must be close to 200. I need to increase my donations to end homelessness."
The blinding lights force her to look away. The stars had long been swallowed by light pollution. She sips her green tea and wishes the artificial light could also drown her fears. It's tough being the daughter of the family's fuck-up, and that is saying a lot because Araceli Berladucci has a clanswoman for an estranged aunt. Of course, the Berladucci family values treating each other compassionately, even if compassion is frustratingly challenging. Thus, it's not like Araceli is shunned away from them. Amir is the best cousin she could ever ask for, and even if his reminders to not get addicted to drugs bordered on patronizing, Uncle Giancarlo still cares about her. The worst part of being the daughter of the family's fuck-up is the constant secondhand embarrassment. Nothing is more mortifying than her father's latest blunder. Starting a drug ring using Horizon Corps funds? The day he was arrested, Araceli could not leave the house because of the blockade of reporters on her doorstep. It's how she wound up moving into a hotel in Atlanta, far away from her residence on the Chattahoochee.
"God, He's so stupid. He's always been like this.
She thinks. The pressure demands emotional time away to relax. She heads to the sauna in her hotel room. Sitting naked in the Hongguan two-person indoor Bluetooth low EMF infrared sauna cased in a kumi and deep brown hemlock wood, Araceli ponders her life. She scoops water with a wooden spoon and pours it over the sauna's coals. Steam rises as the coal sizzles the water. A mixed scent of peppermint and pine hovers in the air. Sweat drips from her forehead as she makes a mental note to use those scents at some point.
Maybe I should add patchouli to that.
20 minutes pass, and she steps into a high-jet shower and then dresses. Araceli fiddles with her earbuds, the gritty beats of Risa and the Rooters, TMI filling her head. Anxiety gnaws at her as she wonders just how deep her father's troubles with the law went. It's a grim situation. She had hoped the justice system would have contacted her about bail by now. Her uncle even agreed to help with the money, but no arraignment had occurred, and the night hours dripped by, forcing her to sit and watch the television screen, her heart heavy with worry. The growing street tension over the Atlanta Vigilante war plays out on the screen. To Araceli, the war seems more hype than reality. Despite all the noise about killing drug dealers, the overall Atlanta murder rate remains its usual. Not that there were no killings, but they don't rise above the backdrop of what had become routine in this city, overcrowded by climate, refugees from the Southwest. She wishes years ago that the Supreme Court stayed out of the water disputes between states like Texas and New Mexico, but that wasn't the case. The problems worsened, and many were surprised when the 14 newly built nuclear reactors in California desalinated water and sent it to places like Arizona by massive pipelines. Terrorist actions destroyed the pipelines in what was referred to as the Southwest Water Wars. Those were tough times, made worse by corporations profiting from the huge money to transport water. In the distance, she watches the sunrise as her tea grew cold, a sense of hopelessness settling in. Araceli is bored and restless. She needs to eat. Leaves her room and takes the elevator down, her fingers tapping impatiently against her thigh. In seconds, she's in the lobby, a place that stinks of peach and lemon. The hotel thought the scent was refreshing, but she hates it. Her nose wrinkles in distaste as she walks past two large black leather couches and the concierge desk. The couches remind her of her black sheep status in her family, and a pang of sadness hits her. Her shoulders slump slightly, and her stomach churns. She marches out of the revolving glass doors, feeling the weight of her worries with every step. Earbuds in, she lets Maisie's dumb pulse through her veins, her head nodding slightly to the beat. The rain is absent for once, replaced by the sun's harsh glare. Yet, the ground is suspiciously wet, and her black rubber galoshes splash through puddles. She dances daintily across the water pools, determined to keep her pants dry. The intense heat hits her as soon as she steps onto the street, sweat stinging her eyes. She squints against the brightness, wiping her forehead with the back of her hand. The heat is oppressive, but a gentle breeze offers some relief, caressing the fine black leather of her jacket. Her black aviator sunglasses and jade-colored cloth mask serve more than to conceal her identity today. Black and white trash bags litter the streets, with broken attics sprawled on top of them, like fallen angels. The putrid stench permeates from their bodies. Even in the daylight, the neon of worn-down signs, mainly in English and Spanish, flicker intermittently, casting a ghostly glow. Araceli frowns. Her lips press into a thin line as she imagines this could have been a vibrant neighborhood before the drug crisis. Remnants of the taqueria, an insurance consultant who spoke every Italic language imaginable, and a sushi and hibachi place hint at a lost past. Now, To put it simply, the place is dead. She sighs, her heart heavy with the weight of what once was, a silent prayer for redemption lingering on her breath. Her frown deepens, realizing her observations echo her father's.
But everyone would agree. This place could have been the city's hidden gem.
Her mind flashes back to her father's mugshot circulating online. The chatter was partly warranted, as many residents lamented how the cartels tore their homes apart. The neighborhood appeared like this partly because of her father and his ilk. However, a new crowd emerged, tagging influencers and asking when they would chase him down. It was like a bounty was on his head, but the reward was internet reputation points. Having not dined in the area, Araceli wonders what her taste buds desire. As a handsome young man passes her, she asks,
Excuse me, where is the best place around here to get a bite?
The young man pauses, a sly smile creeping across his face. Darknet Deli's just around the corner. It's pretty rad.
Yeah? I could use some deli food.
The hot 20-something chuckles, a sound that grates against her nerves. Name's Trajan. What's yours? Araceli glances at him. Her eyes are hidden behind dark aviators.
Araceli.
She says, her voice carrying the weight of her burdens. She turns away, her thoughts drifting to the teachings of grace and forgiveness, wondering if such virtues could ever find a place in a world so broken. She steps back to keep things clear. She doesn't want to give the wrong impression, especially with her world already tangled in frustration and anxiety.
Well, I gotta go.
Hey, try the beef sandwich. It's almost real meat.
I will.
She turns away, her stomach growling in agreement. And don't forget the special sauce. It's to die for. She licks her lips, the thought of the special sauce sticking in her mind like a tantalizing promise.
Is it tangy?
Oh, yeah. He elongates an imaginary line with his hands and adds, it'll change to the point of stretching your mind. The guy seems a bit weird, but Araceli thinks.
To each their own.
She shrugs, her lips curling into a half smile. As she walks, a flickering neon sign catches her eye. Dar in Ellie. Missing letters and all, it had to be the infamous Darknet Deli. Large flies buzz, trapped in the neon glow behind cracked glass. The sight makes her stomach churn, her nose wrinkling in disgust, but hunger pushes her forward. She takes a deep breath, steeling herself. Calling it a greasy spoon is an understatement, but it's now her only option. Her steps are hesitant, her eyes darting around, taking in the grimy surroundings with a mix of trepidation and determination. When Araceli notices the sign, as if on cue, her stomach rumbles. The Abe Coke corporate dinner would not be for another few hours. But from the place's appearance, the food is mediocre at best at Darknet Deli. She has another look around the street. Indeed, this looks like the only place open. Her eyes notice another sign in the window. It is in Chinese characters, but Araceli does not know what it says. She whips out her phone, holds it up to the sign, and it translates the Chinese to, "We speak Chinese. Also, if you're a lawyer, you get a discount," Araceli observes.
A strange group of people that get a discount. Too bad I'm a chemist by trade.
With a gulp, she enters. Its door creaks to the side, and a dull bell rings. Cobalt blue lights flick on and off. The odor of grease and machinery pierces her mask. Her hand shoots up to her mouth, and she feels the grease stain forming on the cloth N95. Of the stain, Araceli thinks.
Ah, That's a perfect mask wasted. I want to get the stain out. But deep down, I know this is like the pea stain my cat made just before she died, that never came out of the rug. No matter how many enzymatic cleaner products that broke down phosphorus I used. No way. Another customer?
The only employee behind the counter, a Chinese-Italian girl with an Atlanta accent, gasps as Araceli swung the door open, her hands flying in the air and shaking like a Broadway performer asked to do jazz hands. Araceli rolls her eyes, unsure of whether to be confused or exasperated. She judges quietly.
There's talking via gestures, like a good Italian girl, and then there's throwing her arms high into the air like a soap opera lead.
The cashier catches herself, and her voice went monotone.
Welcome to Darknet Daily.
The lady's black hair is up, and in a hairnet. Next to her, an employee of the month picture sits crooked on the grease-stained counter. It is not the woman behind the register. A cough, followed by a belch and a snort, bellows from the back.
What will your order be today?
Araceli's eyes immediately catch several ripped posters on the wall, ranging from Dead Kennedys, R.E.M., The Germs, Black Flag, and Fear.
Good taste, huh? In poster choices. Oh, thank you.
The dissonance becomes more apparent when she recognized the song on the speakers as the Ukulele Song by Don Ho. A tear fills her jade green eyes. When a child, Araceli's dad played the song and danced with her. It was a way to brag about his impeccable hula skills that he got from traveling to Honolulu multiple times to meet with an old business partner of his. She wonders where that business partner was now, and how much better a father he was to his kids versus her dad to her. A woman wearing a black choker rises from the counter, flips $2, walks out of the place, and waves goodnight to the counterwoman.
I'll catch you later. Night, Cassie. Break a leg on the show.
The choker-wearing woman smiles and pushes through the door. The counterwoman pivots to Araceli.
The girl who left here is trying to be a big star and hoping for her break. Her show is on the new Up-Down platform. So, if you ever see the name Cassidy Rabbit in headlights, you just ran into her.
Araceli shrugs with ennui. She saunters into the dimly lit deli, the kind of joint where secrets are exchanged over sandwiches. The flickering of the holographic menu draws her attention. Chicken, beef, Reuben, and a hot cheese tuna sandwich. Nothing on the menu but sandwiches. Of course, Darknet Deli was a sandwich chain, but at least other deli chains offered more diversity in the menu. Still, the ingredients laid bare before her, protected by battered glass appeal. The place looks like a repairman had not visited since before she was born. But maybe Darknet Deli is not the worst choice of food she could pick. Her eyes shift to a creamy brown substance only labeled the special sauce. It appears appealing enough to add to her order. Maybe on the Reuben.
Just the roast beef sandwich. And that Trajan guy said to get some of the special sauce over there. Would you like a slice of fresh pie? Fresh? Yes. Our sandwich chain bakes them. Cherry, apple, blueberry. No, I am good.
Araceli flashes a smile as she fishes out some cash. Her eyes dart around, scouting a spot to eat.
Do you guys only do takeout? We used to offer sit-down lunches, but the profits weren't there. Had to sell all our tables and chairs. Some folks like Cassie just lean on the counter. You sure you want the special sauce? Of course.
With the precision of a seasoned pro, The employee snaps on gloves, her sandy beige skin contrasting against the latex. She grabs the bread, layering it up with 3D printed beef, ketchup, and that mysterious special sauce. Araceli's mouth waters at the sight. Darknet Deli is either a hidden gem, or her hunger pushed her beyond caring. The sandwich, wrapped and ready, is placed on the counter. Araceli looks up, meeting the employee's gaze before glancing back at her meal.
Thank you. How much will that be? $12.50.
Cycling through the cash in her hand, the customer forks out a lucky $13 and hands it to the cashier, receiving her 50 cents in return. They thank each other as Araceli hops out of the store, accidentally stepping on a man who collapsed on the ground. His thick body odor and ass smell almost kill her appetite. The streets are still as messy and potentially dangerous as before.
Might be safer to eat the sandwich at the hotel,
She reasons, walking toward the hotel. Cassie rolls over in her single bed, the soft blue flower comforter stuck to her bare legs. Tossing, solace would not come. A sizzling hot summer night, with her energy bills skyrocketing, she chooses to sleep with the AC off. The sweaty bed sheets makes her sigh.
Just a few upvotes, and I can cool this place down for a few hours. Maybe guilt him into it.
She forces a smirk, groans, kicks on, hard fies, can't get along, and turns on her stream.
Hey guys, sleepless night for me. How about you? Figured I'd hang out. Maybe vibe to some music.
Her eyes close and her body sways to the beat. Maybe the song represents her regret, or maybe she hopes it would trigger remorse in her audience. Instantly, fans crowd the chat. The first thing Cassie hears is the voice of one of her platinum members. Margin calls 782, a middle-aged man in Omaha, Nebraska. Cassie, wake up.
What do you want?
We want to see you eat something from the fridge. Some of these routines are old hacks from her fans. Part of her is disgusted by how creepy some fandoms became. Still, in a way, they paid the bills, so she never dealt with them hostilely. Can you pour it over yourself?
Sorry, I can't afford to waste precious milk.
Cassie says, trying one of her scripted responses for turning down her fans. A blend of humor and self-deprecation work for their sensitive egos. Cassie checks her account and is relieved to find no downvotes and another regular to her streams. Fly Dog Runner joining. She thinks,
Bullet dodged.
Cassie, you're no fun. We're your most loyal fans, but you don't reward us. Yeah, Cassie, come on. We want to see you do something. Daisy Thorne does everything for her fans. It's then a user marked Anonymous187 typed in the chat. Cassie should join the Vigilante war trend. Little does she know that this one message would send her chat into a greater frenzy than she could ever handle. What's that? I'm not from Atlanta. You haven't heard? It's going viral. People are killing drug dealers and posting their kills online. Whoa, shit. That's fucked up. Any smiles Cassie could spare for her audience vanish. Sweat beads on her forehead as she takes a deep but quiet breath to regain her composure. Who'd like to see Cassidy Rabbit take out some drug dealers? Depends on what she's wearing, but consider me intrigued. Hey, dumbass, if Cassie kills someone and uploads it online, wouldn't that land her life in prison? You want to see her streaming from inside a prison cell for the rest of her life, you dumb fuck? A prison cell ain't much better than what she's living in now by the looks of it. Cassie chuckles at Fly Dog Runner's message. Anything would be better than the dingy little apartment in the middle of Atlanta she camps in now. It gives her a sweet bit of relief in comparison to the rest of the conversation. At margin call 782, are you dense? Do you not realize the government's been issuing DOA bounties for years? As long as the dealer is on the list, Cassie could walk up to them in broad daylight and execute them. And not only the cops couldn't touch her, but they'd have to pay her out. That's horseshit. You're full of shit. Literally, it was a few weeks ago when a bounty hunter collected a reward from the 8-squid dealer, Mr. Squiggles. Guess what? He died. It was the nightly story. Are you not getting out of your mom's basement? Cassie remembers the incident, and when Squiggles' picture appeared in articles and broadcasts that covered his death, he was in his teens and somehow wrapped up in the dangerous world of drug dealing. The word on the street was that his blood possessed addictive qualities when processed, but she could not verify the rumor. Regardless, the kid did not deserve what happened to him. As more of Anonymous 187's messages appeared in her stream's chat, the teen drug dealer lingers in the back of her mind. Surely, he's not the only youngster caught up in the vigilante wars, and Cassie does not feel like shooting anyone that could not legally drink. Oh God, Anon, you sound nuts. I'm starting to think that this is a bad idea. I just don't see how it makes sense. I don't get it. Well, there's a lot of things you don't get, like why you're still living in your mom's basement. But I'm not going to sit here and explain it to you, am I? Dumbass! Drop dead, troll! Now it's a heated argument. Cassie recalls the fight in her head. Her chat was normal until Anonymous 187 appeared and suggested she become a vigilante. On some systems, they allow you to ban trolls. Unfortunately, Updown is not one of them. The nation has been censoring our culture for too long, blocking real discussion and entertainment. It is good to see the people fighting back. Cassie should lead that charge. Big corporations are diverting attention from their evil and pegging it on the ordinary guy. Bread and circus, dude, so we don't turn on them. Bullshit. The gov pacifies the populace by broadcasting television and streaming shows. They keep people entertained. That is bread and circus. People have found an alternative in social media to take the world back. Now, we clean our communities. Oh my God, he's completely drank the Kool-Aid. Crazy fool on every thread. Count me out. Sounds like bring back old-fashioned witch hunts. Anonymous 187, you sound like a fucking insane conspiracy theorist. So people need to kill now? It sets the people free. Purge society. In horror, Cassie watches as a poll appears on the screen with the words, "Do you think Cassidy Rabbit should participate in the vigilante war?" Within a few seconds of posting, the votes rack up. Overwhelmingly, the bar marked yes swells to 97%. Stomach churning, Cassie disconnects the stream and rubs her eyes. The good thing is the poll would be up for 48 hours, buying her time to figure a way out of this mess. The number of votes masses on her screen. Nervously, her finger taps the side of the camera. She'd collected 697 dislikes. Cassie sighs, feeling the coins in her bank account vaporizing.
Maybe I should start pinching my arms now. I gotta go to the deli.
Cassie thinks out loud, and following through with the gesture. The loss of rewards is painful enough, and the desire to deaden it, honest. Murder? The word dances in her head. It jumps to her lips, but then receded. Pat Benatar once sung that love was a battlefield. This is her love. In battles, people died. Still, she would be stupid to broadcast killing a person. Hell, any one of her followers could go to the police. Her left hand taps twice on the table. The noise helps her to ponder the situation. Her index finger swipes left on her tablet, and her account appears.
Well, that was a shit show,
She thinks, wiping the sweat from her brow with a white tissue. Not only did she fail to make enough money to turn on the AC, but she lost enough so now she wouldn't be able to operate it for the next month. Calculating her budget in her head, her tongue wets her lips. If she goes back now and agrees, the loss would quickly vanish. But the move is unwise. This needs to be a secret until the event to avoid any police surveillance generated from queasy fans. Maybe the AC is unaffordable, but there is something she could buy. She just hopes the person who sold it is awake. She caps her camera and heads to the deli to talk to Shailene. Late at night, Cassie needs a break. All this talk about slaughtering drug dealers frightens her. With all her insanity, she clicks off her drone camera. The ball descends from eye level and lies on the floor of her bedroom. She covers the choker cam with the cap and slips out to the darknet deli. She frequently returns here despite its run-down presence and the worker who was a bit uncouth. Exiting her building, the violent red neon sky gives her a sense of hopelessness. Part of her longs to see a friendly smile and have someone to sit with. Not even to speak, but to be in the same room and breathe the same air.
Maybe I need a therapist,
She thinks, but quickly admonishes herself. Her fan base would never approve, and a regular appointment would require her to turn off her camera, which would be suspicious and difficult to hide. With a sigh, the woman stares up into the sky. At one point, long ago, Cassie could have seen the stars, but now they hide behind the light pollution. Her eyes drop back to the dirty streets. The night air of Atlanta in the summer is still oppressively hot. It feels like a heavy blanket, warm and thick with humidity, carrying the scents of homeless addicts. But behind that smell stand blooming magnolias, mingling with hints of barbecued fake fat-filled meats wafting from late-night gatherings. She wonders briefly if the mayor would demand all the homeless be removed from the streets and taken to the shelter. An overwhelming sound of a police siren echoes down the street, and then Dopplers away, leaving the cicadas' symphony behind. Their drone rises and falls in hypnotic waves. Occasionally, a soft breeze stirs, barely enough to rustle the leaves, but welcome nonetheless. Several white and blue police drones hover in the sky, searching for people who might carry weapons to harm others. Cassie thinks.
Damn Vigilante war.
And pushes forward. The harsh city lights flicker and reflects off the occasional pool of stagnant rainwater, adding a shimmering touch to the warm, almost oppressive air. It's a mix of languor and life, dense with promise of rest and restless energy. At one point, an effort was made to remove stagnant water from the streets and fill the potholes to prevent puddles. If left unchecked, the puddles became breeding grounds for mosquitoes, carrying third-generation Zika virus and other viral problems. Recently, the local governments paid for genetically engineered mosquitoes to be released in certain areas. They could not breed, which would reduce the overall population. Still, so far, Cassie had not noticed an effect. Cassie considers calling the city's pothole number, which promised to fix the problem within 48 hours of a report. But if she reports, her fans might find out she left her home without the camera on. This could cause a real backlash from her fan base and affect her income. In the end, she chooses not to get involved. She strolls casually into the neon-lit deli, her blue eyes scanning the room for V-Boy. They met here once amidst the digital haze and flickering hollow signs, and had a great time chatting. Her mind briefly flashes to that moment, the cheerful glow of his face, which often she had only seen on an LED screen, their laughter blending with the electric hum. Today, however, he's not here. Her heart sinks. The place is a hollow void, save for Shailene behind the counter, bathed in a vending terminal's cold cobalt blue light.
Ugh. Shailene.
Cassie debates if she has the energy to deal with the cashier today. Cassie loves Shailene. Cassie hated Shailene. Simultaneously friends and enemies. The streamer gives up, concluding,
Too late. I'm here now.
Initially met in the punk scene of Atlanta, but over the years their friendship, if it could be called that, remained even after Cassie left. Her eyes fall on the woman's Chinese character, heaping, representing harmony tattooed on her right forearm. The place's walls are covered with posters of punk rock and new wave, which she knows Shailene loves.
Miss Dreamer Lady, twice on the same day. It was such an honor.
Shailene's voice is a distorted echo in the metallic, grease-filled air.
Good to see you. How goes the show? Stressful.
Cassie replies, her voice flat, the glow of her choker dimming.
I need a break.
And she indeed does. Her soul feels empty, like it was depleted of all its warmth and care, leaving only an empty hole inside her. Her mind screams out that this is not living, but maybe, in this corporate-controlled age, no one truly does. Shailene's eyes soften, and a serene smile creeps across her face.
The wise embrace the chaos and find stillness within.
Shailene says, her words carrying the essence of the Taoist philosophy.
In the bustling world, we must be like water, flowing, adaptable, and finding peace. Sometimes, the break you need is just a moment of inner silence. Seek it, and you'll find your balance again. Yeah, I hear you. You're very wise. I hope someday to get there, but not today. Far from it. Balance eludes me. So, what are you having?
Shailene's eyes light up.
The usual. One tuna salad coming up.
Shailene replies, and for the briefest of moments, Cassie feels a sense of peace, as if someone cares to know her rather than just seeing and controlling her. As she walks over to pay for the salad, Shailene sighs.
Thanks for the shout out on your show. It does bring in customers. Don't want to make too much of it, but so you know, I am Taoist, not Shinto. They have very different beliefs. I don't worship ancestors. Yeah, but it doesn't rhyme. Ah, a racist for a rhyme.
Cassie's heart sinks.
It's not a race, but I can see how you feel slighted by religious discrimination. I'll work on it. Thanks for the coaching. How about Shailene of the Deli will fill your belly? Shailene of the Dow will make you one with everything now.
A chuckle escapes Cassie's lips. She stands by the wall portion of the counter with her salad. It is so late at night that her body starts to doze off and her mind returns to the nightmare of her life. The room was ornate, filled with family heirlooms and religious icons, crosses on the walls, a large painting of Jesus, and a statue of the Virgin Mary standing in one corner. A faint light from the stained glass window filtered in, casting soft, rainbow-hued patterns on the floor. Tension filled the air.
Mama, I need to tell you something. I've been carrying this around for a long time, and I can't do it anymore.
Lips twisting. Mama Buckley straightened her posture, her hand instinctively resting on the Bible. The shadows from the crucifix on the wall fell over her face. Cassie thought,
God, this isn't going to go well. Disaster looms.
Cassie's body shivered, and the woman fought the urge to run.
Well, spit it out, child. Ain't no sense in beating around the bush. You know I don't care for dilly-dallying. I'm queer, Mama. I'm into girls and guys. I have a girlfriend.
Mama Buckley's face hardened. Her nose wrinkled in disgust. Her grip tightened on the Bible. Frustration built in Mama Buckley's jawline. Her neck strained. She seemed overwhelmed and confused.
Filthy girl, why do you bring me such filth? Shame on you. Mama?
The older woman sucked in a breath. After a few seconds, her eyes flickered to the large cross above the fireplace, as if searching for strength. The soft light from the stained glass fell across her face like judgment. She mainly stood in deep shadow.
Cassie, I raised you better than this. This is sinful. You're confused, girl. This ain't the life God intended for you. I'm not confused, Mama. This is who I am. I've tried to be what you wanted me to be, but I can't anymore. No, they got places that can fix this. Reverend Oliver runs one. I ain't going to no conversion center, Mama. And I still love Jesus.
Mama Buckley stood, her face like a wraith, her eyes drifting toward the painting of Jesus, arms outstretched in forgiveness. Her expression was far from forgiving.
You can't be serious, Cassie. It's perverse. This is an abomination. You think you're gonna prance around flaunting this in front of the Lord and our community?
Mama Buckley's fist clenched in controlled rage, and Cassie felt as though the woman would pounce on her any minute, with a series of blows in an attempt to beat the devil out of her.
I'm not flaunting anything. I just want to live my life without hiding, without pretending to be someone I'm not.
Deep inside, Cassie wanted dearly to live a more authentic life, like her girlfriend Abby. Mama Buckley wasn't having it, and took a step toward her. The woman's hand started to raise, but maybe the Lord stepped in. Or the woman saw the picture of Jesus on the wall. She stepped back. The rage had not subsided, but control appeared to have been reestablished.
Then you best live it somewhere else. Because as long as you're under this roof, you'll live by the word of God. Ain't no daughter of mine gonna bring shame into this house. This is a house of righteousness, not sin.
Cassie looked at the cross her mother pointed at. Its shadow loomed large over her, as if judging her for standing up for herself.
Are you serious? You're throwing me out because I don't want to live a lie? You made your choice. Now, you live with it. You pack your things and get out of here. You're no daughter of mine if you can't walk the righteous path. I won't have this under my roof.
It was Cassie's choice, to be honest with her family, not her sexuality. But in a culture where control rested so supreme, Cassie knew this was the only outcome. Mama Buckley's gaze flickered to the statue of the Virgin Mary, its serene expression in sharp contrast to her own hardened face. Cassie stood there for a moment, the weight of her mother's words sinking in. Tears pricked her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She glanced at the cross one more time, feeling its cold gaze bearing down on her.
Fine. I'll go. I'll carve my own path. Don't expect me to come crawling back.
Cassie pivoted and headed for the door. As she yanked it open, the faint toll of a distant church bell mixed with the electric hum of the city. Mama Buckley said nothing, simply turned her back on Cassie and walked toward the large cross hanging on the wall, her fingers brushing against its surface as if seeking solace in its cold, unyielding metal. Her church had given her solace and offered her comfort when her husband died, but now her face expressed the emptiness of loss again. Cassie slammed the door behind her. The sound reverberated through the room like the final chord came out swinging by the wonder years. She glanced one last time through the window. Mama Buckley stood before the cross, gripping her Bible tighter. Her eyes closed in what appeared to be a prayer, but her face remained stern and unwavering. The fractured light from the stained glass window cast harsh shadows across her, as if the divine judgment she clung to scrutinized her own resolve. It was the last time she saw her mom. 6 months later, cancer claimed her life. It's Shalene's hand falling on her shoulder that brings Cassie back to the present. Her voice is soft and empathetic.
You okay, streamer lady?
Cassie cries, and Shalene stiffens, not knowing what to do. Then she reaches around and hugs the streamer. Cassie leans into the hug, but within a few seconds, draws back.
Oh, I gotta go.
Shalene draws back, smiles, and her voice returns to her deli hostess role.
Sure, streamer lady, come again soon.
Cassie stumbles out the door into the oppressive night air. Compared to the neon-drenched chaos of the streets, the hotel is a sanctuary of synthetic luxury. Araceli places her sandwich on the sleek, rectangular dining table. Her family is off handling their shadowy data dealings, leaving her alone in the suite. Relief washes over her. More time to herself. After eating, she'd have to tackle the rest of her business loan. Her heart races. The damn bank has been breathing down her neck for months about refinancing and getting ahead of payments before they balloon. Frustration simmers within her. A constant, gnawing presence. Besides the forms, her tablet displays a 3D model of her creation's chemical formula. Glossy plum-purple cosmetic eyeliner for amber eyes. She's trying to convert a carbon-hydrogen bond into a double carbon bond by removing the hydrogen. This tweak would make the product gentler and act as a sealant to lock in moisture. Her heart races, and her brain stalls. The problem is that if she got the sequence too early in the reaction, it would mess up hyaluronic acid, which her product used to push its basis as protection from aging. Exasperation creeps in, tightening its grip. Her stomach twists and growls. She needs a bite of her sandwich. Unwrapping the paper, Araceli takes her first bite. The bread, beef, and sauces meld into a heavy, savory symphony in her mouth. Despite the rumors, this dark-net deli sandwich is good. The beef oozes greasy oil as she chews, hanging soggily in her mouth. Satisfaction fills her, a warm, comforting sensation. She muses.
I can see why it's not everyone's first choice. It's too juicy. But there's so much heme from the genetically engineered yeast that I don't care. From the GMO to my HMO. Let the oil clog my arteries.
She gnaws again, pondering if a cardiac triple bypass is in her future. Uncle Giancarlo used to rant about the family's health and how processed foods were the root of all their cancers. Annoyance flickers at the memory. A sharp, bitter taste. Still, the savory goodness of now takes priority. She'd return to her regular diet at the next corporate dinner. The whole sandwich is gone within 10 minutes, and Araceli unknowingly bites through the air. With her stomach weighing down, she hobbles to her computer to find the bank loan application. If she could secure the loan, Cell's perfume and cosmetic line would launch, paving the way for her larger chemical company. Hope and determination surge within her, a powerful, driving force. With income in, she could break free from the family business, with its blood money and dangerous allies. Her mind drifts back to the last corporate gala, a neon-lit nightmare of power plays and synthetic smiles. As she crooned the final notes of The Gambler by Kenny Rogers, her so-called friend glided over to the table where the power couple behind Abe Coke Corporation held court. He only saw her as a friend because aligning with a corporate dynasty was crucial for his political ambitions. If she recalled correctly, his name was Paul, or something equally forgettable. He had the glitz and charm to make every woman, and even cousin Amir, within a 5-mile radius swoon. But to her, he was a sad, emotional wreck in a disturbingly creepy way. Let's face it, if it weren't for his wealthy father, he'd be locked up as a lecher and a basket case. Sure, a small part of her icy heart pitied him. He'd lost his longtime girlfriend in a nightclub shooting, but she also heard whispers of his unnatural relationships with robots, which only deepened her skepticism. The memory twists and turns as she sings The Way We Were by Barbra Streisand, her voice echoing through the dreamscape. Her eyes drift left, catching a glimpse of her father, who was uncorking a bottle of Armand de Brignac. Each note she sings felt surreal, her presence commanding yet unfamiliar. Her heart sinks with every drop of champagne he pours. The fleeting, happy memory of her father dissolves into a haze of sadness and shame. He had built an empire of vice, flooding Atlanta's veins with meth and heroin. His legacy, dark shadow over her life. The 8-ball of heroin he sent to each family member was a crucial reminder, isolating her further as no one knew how to respond. Suddenly, he turns to her, something he hadn't done through the whole party, if her memory serves right. His voice is a distant echo calling her name.
Dad? But you're in jail.
Yes, I am, but we're communicating through the astral plane.
The astral plane?
You've ascended from your physical form. This ascension has brought you here to the astral plane, where you can reach me. Despair washes over her, a cold wave that leaves her breathless. The astral plane feels like a cruel joke, a place where she could touch the past but never change it. Her father's voice, once a source of comfort, now only deepens her sense of loss. She's adrift in a sea of memories, each one more painful than the last, and there's no escape. The room's colors swirl into beautiful celestial purples and blues. The thought of having superpowers of her own makes Araceli chuckle uncontrollably. She dreamed and pretended such things as a child, even trying to move objects with her mind a few times. Maybe she does not need her own business. She could join the company of hero things.
I am a goddess, a superhero.
The phone rings, the ringtone echoing the notes of I Would Die For You by Prince. Her Horizon Core brand mega smartphone rings, jolting her quasi back into reality. Her hand delicately touches the screen and puts it on the hollow speaker. A nondescript Asian woman with dark green hair and the signature Earth Corps uniform appears.
Hello? My name is Agent Daria Sarandorj. We hope to speak to you about a computer program your father had purchased. My dad? I just talked to him on the astral plane. What? Are you okay? Is this the adverse effects of any medications or street drugs? I am not crazy. He may be in jail, but he just contacted me on the astral plane. Purple swirled around him, and he told me I had the powers of a goddess.
The agent sits dumbfounded. Her jaw is wide open. To someone not in the frame, the agent whispers,
I think she's on drugs. Or maybe should be, Agent Stevens. Like father, like daughter.
And to Araceli,
I can assure you that did not happen. We were just in the holding cell together. He asked if you could come down to speak to him. It's part of the favor we're providing him in exchange for his knowledge of a Portuguese software company. He said you might be able to help us with some of the biochemical reactions during the brain scans this group runs. Have you heard of Jerry? Jerry? Dad never mentioned him. Well, Jerry was artificial intelligence made by this company, but your father enmashed his code with old brain scans from a woman named Genevieve Berladucci.
Araceli's gaze shifts to the window. The neon-lit haze of the city outside the window twists and bends, reality like a glitch in the system. Araceli's vision blurs, and the edges of her world pixelate.
Oh, and Vivian? Yeah, she flatlined before I could ever upload a memory of her.
What's that about Aunt Vivian? From the flickering hotel door, two figures materialize. Amir and Amir. But there should be only one, and maybe that was just the Highlander or a glitch. Their irises are swirling galaxies, cosmic energy pulsing through their veins. They stand side by side, identical yet impossibly duplicated. Their expressions, a mix of beauty and bewilderment.
Whoa! Since when could you clone yourself, Amir?
What? Their voices overlap in a digital echo. Concern etches across their faces as they exchange worried glances. Hey, are you good?
Never been better.
Agent Serendorje's voice cuts through the static, sharp and suspicious.
Who are you? Oh, that's my cousin, Amir.
Araceli's words trail off, her hand giving a lazy thumbs up before her body slumped, like a system shutdown. Can confirm that. Amir and Amir's voices harmonize in the digital ether as they try to keep Araceli upright, their concern deepening.
Oh, Mr. Berladucci. We were in the middle of interrogating Ms. Berladucci when... Ms. Berladucci?
The scene flickers, reality and hallucination merging in a flickering computer dreamscape. Araceli tips off the chair and crashes to the floor, the world replaced with the endless beauty of space. As she shuts her eyes, it's just her and the vast universe. Next thing Araceli knows, she lies on her bed, her skin cold and sweaty, like a soul in the throes of spiritual warfare. Fluttering her eyes open, she sees Amir and Uncle Giancarlo standing beside her, their faces a mix of concern and frustration. It reminds her of when Dorothy woke up after hitting her head in the old Wizard of Oz movie. After all these years, and you fall into the same temptation as your father.
What? Has the dinner happened yet?
It happened a few hours ago, but all your talk about ascending to a higher plane worried us. So I canceled both of our reservations and made sure you didn't do anything foolish. You didn't, if you were wondering.
Huh. Usually, I'm looking after you.
Her eyes catch the glint of her phone lying on the table, but it is off.
Did I pass out? I was talking to an agent from EarthCorp.
Araceli asked herself before turning to Amir.
Hey, what happened to that agent Torindor or whatever?
Oh, that Serendorje lady. Yeah, I talked to her a little after you passed out. You were mumbling something about getting one of those exaggerated Beaufort hairdos.
A B-52? No way. I must have lost my mind.
Well, the EarthCorp's woman decided my knowledge of software engineering and data encryption could be useful for determining the inner machinations of that AI assistant your dad was using. She also called my dad and asked if she could get you an ambulance. Cells, again and again, I've told you that drugs will ruin your life. And the moment you're on your own, you get high.
All I did was go to a darknet deli. No drugs in sight, I swear.
You were high. It was clear as day. He breaks into song, briefly singing the third verse of Because I Got High by Afro Man.
I'm not my father.
After a pause, he continues, singing the fourth verse of the same song.
Come on, Uncle.
If there were no drugs at the Darknet Deli, then where else did you get them?
I don't know. All I had was a roast beef sandwich with some strange sauce. Has the trash from the room been taken out yet?
The men shake their heads no. Araceli slowly rolls off the bed and over to the trash, her movements sluggish, as if wading through a dream. Indeed, some of that special sauce is smeared on the wrapping paper. She grabs the wad of paper and unravels it. There is still some special sauce on it. Now, how would she figure out the contents? With Sums 41's Best of Me blaring in her headset, Cassidy Rabbit stalks through the city's gritty underbelly. Gone is her streamer persona, fishnet stockings, skimpy skirts, maid uniforms, and playful cat ear headbands atop her hair colored like cotton candy. Her usual look screams for attention, tailor-made to lure in her audience. But tonight, the present look is to hide. Navigating past the elevated Hyperloop train and bonfires flickering on every corner, Cassie dons her street uniform, combat boots, baggy jeans, and a loose-fitting hoodie. The streets are a different beast. Here, standing out is a death sentence. The dealers are on guard for hunting vigilantes. Blending in is the art of survival. But the threat is not just from dealers. Her eyes dart around, scanning for threats in the shadows. She'd be a target if anyone suspects her of having anything valuable. The weight of her concealed pistol is a comforting reminder of her resolve. As the track switches to another punk anthem, she draws the hood tighter, merging with the urban decay. Cassie isn't here to play games. Dealers are deadly. They do not just roll over and die. They fight back. She plans to survive and ensure that her fans are pleased. The red, pink, and yellow neon-painted streets reek of stale beer and unwashed bodies. The flickering pole lights cast eerie shadows, adding to the sense of decay. Users on the corner rock back and forth like zombies, shuffling along the sidewalk, completely out of it. It is a shame. Even though she recognizes a few faces in the crowd, Cassie hobbles forward, avoiding the street life. Her life is lived in such a way that she never ventures to this part of town this late. The distant pop of gunshots echo through the night, but she doesn't flinch as the red light turns green. Shouts erupt from a corner store, and a moment later, a pair of petty thieves tumble out onto the sidewalk, scampering away as Julio, the bodega owner, racks a shotgun. His eyes met Cassie's, and he lowers his weapon. nodding to her in recognition. The tension in the air is palpable. Sweat pours over her face. Her hands tremble from resolve mixed with fear. Cassie moves with purpose, her heart pounding in her chest. Cassie, mija, every time I see you, it breaks my heart. When are you getting out of the city?
Soon, Julio. Just need the credits.
Over the years, Cassie had a few friends from the neighborhood, but the horrors of the community got them both. One got hooked on H-Squid and joined the flanks of the brainless army on the street. Less than a month before her fans invited her to join the Vigilante war, Cassie went to her friend's apartment to chat and find out what was happening in the woman's life. When she arrived, she banged on the door, but no one answered. Cassie noticed water forming below the crack under the door and became concerned. Cassie adjusted her video cam, the lens capturing the surreal glow of the dreamlike cityscape. She descended to the first floor, her footsteps echoing in the dimly lit stairwell. The apartment manager, a grizzled figure with an old monocle, grumbled as he unlocked the door. Inside, they found Jaylene sprawled on the floor, overdosed on fentanyl. The bathtub overflowed, water cascading onto the tiles like a silent waterfall. The manager's complaints about eviction faded into the background as Cassie focused on her friend. She tried to revive Jaylene, marching her around the room, but it was futile. Cassie's face twisted with desperation, her eyes wide with fear and determination. The manager eventually retreated to the dank living room, his voice a distant murmur as he called for an ambulance. EMTs arrived, their uniforms starkly contrasting the room's chaotic disarray. They whisked Jaylene away, her body limp and unresponsive. Cassie's heart sank, her expression helpless, but she forced herself to hope. God, she wanted it so bad. Cassie watched them go, her heart heavy with uncertainty. She never knew if Jaylene survived or found the help she needed. The not knowing was a cruel comfort, a fragile thread of hope she clung to. The experience left her hollow, a void that no amount of streaming could fill. Brow raised and red-faced, Cassie railed against the dealers on her show, her anger raw and unfiltered. The event video garnered close to 40,000 likes, a testament to her audience's morbid fascination. Maybe that was why she was invited to join the war, a chance to channel her rage into something more than words. Her eyes burned with a fierce resolve, her jaw set in defiance. The second friend's wife was killed in a botched robbery, sending him spiraling into an addiction to the rememory drug Drimzitol. Police found his dead body at a rememory cafe. His rigor mortis stiffened hand still clutched the mouse, the video of his wife endlessly looping on the fuzzy screen. Cassie swore she wouldn't make any new friends after that. The only friends she has left in this city are V-Boy and Shailene on a good day.
Julio, got any tracker blockers for sale?
A what? The girl pointed to her collar.
I'm looking to block this.
Julio let out a slow whistle, his eyes narrowing as he nodded. I might have something that'll do the trick. After a positive lab test for LSD and a creativity enhancer, lighting up her front polar cortex like a neon sign, Araceli grabs the car keys. She speeds off to the Darknet Deli, where she got her sandwich. The audacity of them to spike her food.
Can they even get away with this? It has to violate some law. They could have killed me.
She kicks the door open like she's staging a heist. The girl behind the counter, a punk herself, throws her hands up instinctively.
We don't have any money to rob. You! Damn you! I am going to sue you for what you did. What? You drugged me, remember that? You asked for the special sauce. I had no idea. It was code for poison me. We got no money. We've been trying to sell this place for years because we don't make a profit. I don't care. You drugged me. It's just to give the sandwich a kick. Our one artsy patron lacks the creativity boost.
The clerk shimmies to the cash register, clicking it to open. Sweat beads down her face as her fingers rapidly slip, grasping whatever cash is there. Much to her bad luck, the only money in the register is from Araceli's previous purchases, and a few coins from Cassie's salad.
I'll return your money eventually. It does not seem like the cash register has enough to cover right now. Come back later? Who uses LSD to spice up their sandwich?
Araceli's arms shoot into the air, frustration boiling over, just like her father would do in this situation. Damn it! How did she adopt her father's mannerism? He was the last influence she wanted to emulate in this situation. Knowing him, he probably would be a regular customer here. The clerk's voice cuts through the haze of the dimly lit deli.
We don't tend to get non-druggies here. We've been itching to leave since these damn drug wars started. But Darknet Deli's got us chained.
Araceli's laugh was sarcastic, cold, and sharp.
Ha ha ha! You could sell if you really wanted to.
The accusation is clear. If they tried harder, the system would reward them. But even Araceli doesn't believe that. She hates herself for a moment, wondering how she had become angry and transformed into her father. Conditioning is tough to break, especially cultural conditioning. The clerk's eyes widen, desperation creeping into her voice.
No, I mean it. Bullshit.
Araceli's eyes narrows. A rebellious fire burns within.
You know the system's rigged to keep us all in line. But we don't have to play by their rules. We can tear it down, piece by piece, if we have the guts.
The clerk stares at her, a flicker of hope mingling with fear.
You really think we can? Think? No. I know we can. It's time to take back control. One sandwich at a time.
An older Chinese woman steps out from behind a door. It is the woman from the Employee of the Month picture.
Shailene. Je suis ennemi. Oui, she. We got our first outsider to the deli, Mom. She's mad about the special sauce. What did we tell you about using the special sauce?
The older woman yells in English, her hands buried in her face.
If you don't recognize the customer, then you ask about the special sauce.
The older Chinese woman slaps the younger's hand.
I did. She insisted. Besides, who else would come in this place other than the druggies we normally get?
Feeling blamed, the fragile truce vanishes for Araceli. With the fury only a Berladucci could muster, she yanks the sunglasses off her face, her jade green eyes narrowing with scorn. The shift in her demeanor is palpable, anger radiating off her in waves.
Do you know who I am?
Oh no, she uses the line. Whenever that line comes up in conversation, everything instantly goes sideways. The proverbial shit hitting the fan. All this time, she has tried not to make herself look like a corporate brat, to not be her father's daughter. All of that effort just to revert to her old ways.
No.
Shailene squint, her brown eyes trying to pinpoint who Araceli is. First, she shakes her head. Then, a dawn of recognition creeps onto her face.
Oh, you're the kid of the Onyx Cherry Blossom Cartel's founder. See, Mom, I was right to give her the special sauce. Are you looking to pick up a shop on your route? I can work for you. Yeah, you can buy us out. Maybe your dad wants to expand into hallucinogens?
Araceli's face boils a fiery red. Is this how her memory would go down? The daughter of a cartel owner who failed so spectacularly that her very name lay ruins. Araceli's fists curl. It takes all her willpower not to beat the clerk up, like she is a rowdy heckler from Araceli's old scene days. Shailene notices this too, when she follows up with her vitriolic comment with,
Sorry, that was a bad joke.
Araceli huffs, her fist unball. Before she could make the situation worse, she has to calm down and lawyer up.
So, is in six figures a good demand in damages? Go ahead. In fact, please sue Darknet Deli. If you sue us, we will somehow never disappear from this business. Our contract will keep us bound to owe them more servitude. Please, go to the source. Maybe you can free us from this hell.
Araceli's jaw drops. She doesn't expect that remark from the clerk. Is this family desperate to leave this store behind? From what she can tell, Darknet Deli is quite prolific as a fast food chain. A drop of sweat beads on her forehead. She reassures herself.
No, you have a rock-solid case. Berladucci's don't know what can't means. Darknet Deli will be held liable.
After purchasing the tracker blocker, Cassie slips through the neon-soaked alleyways of the city. The flicker of distant holograms paints her path in electric blues and purples. She needs to find solace in a friend amidst the madness engulfing her life. His support could be the anchor she desperately needs. If she's going to become a killer, she must lock down access to her device, ensuring only her most trusted fans can witness the act. It will minimize the risk of being handed a death sentence, but deep down, her conscience whispers, haunted by the weight of such an action. Killing brings its own kind of hell, and guilt can be a relentless tormentor. Her hands tremble at the thought. The city's oppressive heat presses down on her, mixed with the scent of decaying garbage and exhaust fumes. Her leather jacket feels like a second skin, slick with sweat. The digital eyes of surveillance drones buzz overhead, but her new tracker blocker keeps her hidden in the shadows. Like thunder, Cassie's heart pounds with each step. Her thoughts whirl with fear and defiance. The moment Cassie strolls into the dusty two-car garage, set inside an old converted butcher mill, a wave of relief wash over her. The glow of yellow vapor lights add an odd sense of comfort, casting long shadows that dance like old friends. Here, she is safe. This place is like home in a world that had grown increasingly alien. The sight of gun-mounted turrets on each corner of the garage, tailor-made by V-Boy himself, gave her a damn good reason to feel secure. Each turret was a silent sentinel, watching over her. Cassie's heart, which had been pounding with the anxiety of the streets outside, slow to a steady rhythm. Her breath, once ragged with fear, now comes easier. The familiar hum of V-Boy's machinery and the smell of oil and metal is like a balm to her frayed nerves. Here, amidst the grime and shadows, Cassie finds a sanctuary where she can lower her guard and let the outside world fade away, if only for a little while. But even without the guns, this place remains the closest thing to home Cassie will ever experience. As she strolls toward the back, a hip-hop song bumps on an old iPad linked to a speaker system. Cassie knows the rapper is Young Thug because V-Boy never stops professing his love for the Atlanta-born artist. In fact, Cassie knows that whenever one of Young Thug's songs come on the playlist, V-Boy would only say one of two lines. Young Thug doesn't miss. Or, Young Thug crushes features. Just thinking about it makes Cassie smile. V-Boy's passion for life is one of the things she loves most about him. She hopes V-Boy isn't sick of her, especially now when she needs his help so much. They've never been intimate, but she hopes that will change. She figures he's just a shy guy who takes his time getting into a relationship. Clanks and spurts echo as she makes her way into the garage. The hot roar of the welding torch rings out, the orange flames obvious even from a distance. She runs her fingers along the reinforced steel of the flying bus. Fear sparks in Cassie's heart. She's heard of the close calls V-Boy gets into, especially with everything going on in Atlanta, but she rarely sees the bus in such ragged condition. Her life would be unbearable if she lost him. V-Boy sits in his classic position, on the stool by the workbench, sparks flying off his soldering helmet. Her fingers trace a fresh smattering of bullet holes along the right driver's side door. He has two habits: creating tech and influencing, both profitable.
What are you working on?
Her voice startles him, causing his body to flinch. Before Cassie can see, V-Boy throws a gray canvas over his new creation. Novel gadgets occupy most of his time. If it isn't parts for the flying bus parked in the garage, it's some new high-tech virtual reality glasses or even various forms of counterfeit medication. The jack of all trades has his hands in the entrepreneurship of invention. Whoa! Hey, Cassie, didn't hear you enter. His chubby face lingers between a diamond and a heart. Sweat glistens over his olive skin. Cassie playfully taps one of the pink diamond studs on V-Boy's ear and says,
You never do. What did I tell you about leaving the garage door open? It isn't safe.
With wall-mounted gun turrets, an insane bad guy recognition system, I'd say it isn't safe for any intruders.
Don't you ever worry that thing will read your face wrong one day and pepper you with bullets?
Nope. When do you work hard, you learn to trust yourself. And in this case, I'm trusting my life with it.
I can see that.
Cassie glances at the bullet dents in the Airbus, her fingers tracing the impact. She presses her finger into one of the holes, feeling the rough edges. Her eyes catch sight of her reflection in the rearview mirror. Her face, a picture of exhaustion. How had she let her fans push her this far? Where was her morality? Desperate to distract herself, she wanders back to the workbench. V-Boy picks up a styrofoam cup of coffee, swirls it, and takes a swig. Cassie longs for a sip. She knows it's likely cold. V-Boy's coffee often goes cold while he works. It would be bitter and harsh. But right now, God, anything to help her think clearly. So, what do you need, Bunny? The word snaps her back. Dread wells up in her heart, but she shoves it down as quickly as it rises.
I need 10 milligrams of drift.
Whoa, Cassie. I know I'm not supposed to comment about a girl's weight, but that's a lot for a small girl.
A small girl with big problems.
Cassie shrugs and then throw up her hands and surrender. Your fans getting a little too rowdy again, huh?
They want more. Every time I think I've stretched beyond my comfort zone to please them, they still want more. And they've started harassing me in my sleep. This damn collar. I should never have implanted it.
Cassie strolls over to the workbench. A brochure lay open. She picks it up, unfolding it in her fingers.
What's this? Linked to the dead ink?
V-Boy rushed over and grabbed the brochure from her hand. It's nothing? Her eyes widen, unaccustomed to V-Boy getting so protective of any item she stares at him. He is always so open about his life. Okay, it is something.
Spill, dude. Are you going to answer?
A red light blinked, and the console chirped. No, let it ring. He pauses and sucks in a deep breath. It's a place that scans your structures and brainwaves like a PET scan, then creates a limited model.
How limited?
About 15%.
Such a small amount? What good is that?
It's for after you die. Well, they store a bit of your memory and some basic problem solving for the grave. When you die, if people want to visit, a holographic image of you can speak to them. In most cases, it is for family, to get closure. They do 2 of you while you're alive and 1 just after you've gone.
Never saw you as a family guy.
Cassie's hands draw back to the desk and she leans backward on it. I have none. So, you would be correct.
So why get it?
Other people. It's complicated. I live a risky life, and if I take something to the grave, I want to make sure people can access it.
Oh. So, what are these dark secrets you hold, my friend?
He chuckled and shifted the subject back to her arrival. So, you're not scared about everything happening around here?
What?
Vigilantes are killing drug dealers. Some streamers have even started to jump on the trend. Daisy Thorne did. It's gone viral. She's in jail now. You seriously need to watch out. B-Boy chuckles. Cassie twists away from him. She can't bear to look him in the eyes. Wait a minute, Cassie. You're not getting involved with this, are you? Oh, no, shit. This is what your fans want you to get into? Huh? Is that what you've become now? He pauses and studies her face, then continues. This goes against everything we stand for. What happened to our dream of going to Japan and opening up an LP bar?
We're still going to do that.
How many murderers do you know are cafe owners?
It's not murder. Technically, these guys are criminals.
Come on, Cassie. You know the powerful rig the system. They're outlawing drugs, so the legal drug dealers can rake in all the profits. For God's sakes, I deliver generic drugs to elderly folks who can't afford the big brand Rancor drugs. But I could end up on that bounty list for all we know.
It's tougher to live here. I can barely pay the bills. Every month, I've got to choose between hot water, electricity, or not eating ramen noodles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So light some candles. Cassie's mouth twists into a grimace as she stares at V-Boy, who looks back at her with his usual deadpan expression after saying something bizarre. They both break out into hysterical laughter. V-Boy then places a packet of pills into Cassie's palm. No charge. Cassie swells with gratitude. He is her best friend, and he's worth 10 in a moment like this. Be careful out there.
You too. People would love to kill a drug dealer for the number of upvotes it would get. It would be best if you didn't get hurt. You're my only friend.
And Shailene?
I can take her and leave her. Depends on the day.
Relax. I can handle myself. Cassie points to the bullet dents in the Airbus.
But those are armor-piercing rounds. That's usually only reserved for bigger game.
Yeah, it's because of this damn vigilante war. People are going nuts just to kill a drug dealer.
Don't call yourself that.
Technically, that's what I am. For the first time ever, Cassie sees him shiver, in a gesture meant to comfort. The streamer reaches over and touches his shoulder. He jerks back, startling her.
I think transporting elderly citizens 14 hours into Canada so they can buy generic drugs, rather than being gouged by Rancor's pharma, doesn't exactly put you alongside the gang selling H-Squid.
All the same to the police. They'd put me in jail just as soon as another of those gangbangers. Sometimes I don't bring the people. I just get the meds.
It's just, we're so close to getting out of here. We've almost got enough to start our cafe in Japan.
Her voice sounds desperate, even to Cassie. Rolling his eyes, V-Boy reminds. The more trips I make to Canada, the closer we get to escaping the city. And isn't that what you want?
V-Boy, I'm worried about you. Could you please at least promise me you'll be safe?
Don't worry. I have a very crafty method of delivering my drugs around the neighborhood. You might even say I'm invisible. He steps close to her and places an arm on her shoulder. Since the space is tight, he has to place a knee on his cot for sleeping, which rests in the corner of the shop, just to reach her. Besides, why would I ever mess up my chances of going to Japan with you? That's our dream. Come on, buddy. My suggestion is the only way I'm going to make enough cash to get out of here. Japan, here we come.
I know you wouldn't do anything stupid. Just be safe.
Within a day, Uncle Giancarlo sets Araceli up with his attorney. She recaps what happened to him and submits to him the test results that indicate LSD in the sauce. Giancarlo, a man known for his unyielding demeanor, does something unexpected. He looks at Araceli, his eyes softening with regret. I'm sorry. He finally apologizes, the words heavy with sincerity, a rare glimpse of vulnerability in a man of steel. Uncle Giancarlo moves swiftly into the city's dark heart, playing all his legal contact to find the best one. Money is no object when it comes to protecting family. Within 24 hours, Araceli sits across from his high-powered attorney. A man that Araceli is sure will bring her retribution. Tell me everything. Araceli takes a deep breath. Recounting the harrowing events, her voice steady but eyes betray the turmoil within. She hands over the damning test results. The paper trembles slightly in her grasp.
LSD in the sauce.
At that moment, amidst the legal jargon and the looming threat of scandal, A fragile bond of trust forms, but the sting pains her heart. She fears her actions are not from a need for vengeance and not justice, like some strange pissing contest. It gives her a silly pause. Is this what passes for justice in her life? After leaving the meeting with the lawyer, she heads to Earth Corps, Atlanta, to meet with her dad and Agent Sarandorje. Nestled in the heart of sprawling, heat-soaked downtown Atlanta, the office stands in a nondescript high-rise building that blends into the city's chaotic skyline. If one passes by, they think, just another towering building. Neon signs and holographic advertisements illuminate the streets, casting a colorful, almost surreal glow on the building's facade. The only identification in a small black and gold sign, United Nations Security Council Atlanta Earth Corps Headquarters, in Helvetica font. Hobbling up, she touches the door. It's reinforced with sleek, impenetrable silver-colored materials designed to withstand explosions and forced entries.
God, this is serious,
Araceli says, and then takes a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. The building's bright foyer starkly contrasts with the chaos outside. It's chill, almost unnatural. Heavily armed and security personnel patrol with an air of casual menace, their presence underscored by the hum of advanced biometric scanners and the unblinking gaze of CCTV cameras. The guards gather behind a plexiglass barrier, one jacked directly into the system via implants. Eyes flickering between security feeds. Herb Alpert's Rise plays softly in the background, a surreal soundtrack to the high-tech fortress. The foyer was a study in contrast, minimalistic yet intimidating, with dark, metallic tones and soft ambient lighting. Despite the armed men and their professional stares, Araceli feels a strange sense of calm. Her heart rate slows as she takes in the scene. A large crystal chandelier casts fractured light over the white tile floor. Children play tag under their mother's watchful eye, her scolding a distant echo in the sterile space. You wait till your father comes down, she insists. Araceli remembers her mother making the same threats. Now it is her father who has done the wrong. Where is she to go with this? Her brain races. A massive digital screen behind the receptionist flickers with real-time news, mission updates, and threat levels. As Araceli approaches the information center, she notes the layers of security biometric scans, facial recognition, and AI-driven surveillance tracking her every move, and, indeed, the motion of many worldwide.
I'm here for a meeting with Agent Tarandorsh. 1 second.
The receptionist taps a small communication link on the desk and relays the message to Agent Sarandorje.
She will be down in a minute.
Araceli took 2 steps back and waited. 5 minutes later, Agent Sarandorje emerged from the full body scanner and metal detectors, which led to a set of elevators. An African-American male stood behind her.
Ms. Berladucci, I'm glad you could make it down. This is an attorney who is working on your father's case. Mr. Lawrence Darcy represents your father's interest in the matter.
Extending a hand, Araceli says,
Thank you for meeting with me. I am glad to do whatever is necessary to help the investigation.
When he reaches out his hand and clasps hers, she notices his extra thumb, a telltale sign of genetically enhanced beings. She fights the urge to recoil and clasps his hand tightly, determination etched on her face.
Well, part of it is a sample of your brain fluid. Oh? Let me explain. You and your father share roughly 48% of the same genes when you consider mitochondrial DNA. We have a sample of your aunt's daughter's DNA and hope to work back to the precise fluid for your aunt's brain. We do have a short brain scan from your aunt that was done for her grave. You know, One of those living grave things people seem to find all the rage now.
The group strolls to the metal detectors, and Araceli takes out her keys, chucking them into a bin. She leaves her bag on the conveyor belt, hauling it under the scanner for the guards to inspect. At the other end, Araceli grabs her keys and bag. The group proceeds to an elevator, and Serendorje hits the button with the -5th floor. When the doors open, they emerge into a hallway 10 paces in. They reach a glass office door and enter. The office space is filled with rows of sterile white cubicle workstations. The office holds an intense, high-stakes atmosphere, with a constant sense of urgency and readiness. A stark contrast is one man toward the back peeling open a chocolate candy bar and taking a bite while humming The Candy Man from Willy Wonka. The subdued lighting strategically uses neon, accents, and holographic displays, creating a futuristic yet gritty feel. Each station has multi-monitor setups displaying data streams, surveillance feeds, and tactical information. Agents sit in large swivel chairs that many gamers would die to have, complete with back and neck support and heating and massage functions. At the center, a circular, raised platform houses the operations commander. From here, they oversee all activities, coordinate missions, and communicate with field agents. Despite being unknown for such things, Araceli sees a series of holographic projectors, advanced AI analytics, and augmented reality interfaces for real-time mission planning and threat assessment. The constant hum of electronic equipment, occasional alarms, and the low chatter of agents coordinating missions fill the air.
Can I speak to my father? Sure. He is waiting for us in the briefing room.
They march back into the hallway, the atmosphere charged with tension. Intermittent announcements and briefings break the relative quiet, emphasizing the dynamic and reactive nature of the unit's operations. During the low volume points, Serendorje's heels clack heavily on the floor, each step echoing through the sterile corridor. When they arrive at the briefing room, it is sterile and intimidating, with one-way mirrors and minimal furniture. Araceli's heart pounds as she notices her father hooked up to an odd machine. The sight sends a chill down her spine. She wonders if he's okay. The air feels thick with unspoken threats and high stakes. The tension nearly palpable.
Hey, Dad.
Araceli!
Oh?
She rushes to hug him. Yes, he is the family fuck-up, but he is still her dad. Her arm catches in his wires. Don't worry, baby. It is just a lie detection system with neural interfaces for truth extraction and AI analysis of suspect psychological responses. He has agreed to aid in the investigation completely and without hesitation. The system is our way of showing we are holding up our end. They read his brain as he answers.
Oh?
Yeah, he has quite a lot. He has committed himself to at least 2 years of drug rehabilitation. You might be part of that, as the program uses a community reinforcement approach that uses family members. They are debating Q exposure to lessen his cravings. In addition, he agreed to receive neuromorphic memory implants to help him develop empathy for those who were harmed by drug abuse, and also conditioning memories to block future antisocial behavior. Hey, little girl, I got hot links on hot dog buns with barbecue sauce coming from the place up the street for my dinner. I'd be glad if you shared it with me and we had a chance to talk. Alberto adds, it's clear from the worry on his face that he knows his daughter is angry and disappointed.
So, what do I need to do?
Darcy explains her role, emphasizing that it is a request and she has the right to refuse. Initially, she wants to say no, but then she glances at her father and agrees, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision. She decides to stay for lunch, feeling the knot in her stomach tighten. Maybe it's time to check her gut reactions and do something different. She catches a glimpse of her father, seeing the hope in his eyes, and resolves to give it a chance. Maybe she needs that hope in her own life in the deli case. Araceli goes as far as asking if Mr. Darcy would serve as second chair on her case, the words coming out with a mix of desperation and determination. She knows this might be her only shot at redemption. Araceli slips into Darknet Deli, the shorting neon sign flickering like a dying star. This grimy hole would be a distant memory if she had her way, but Shalene's mother insists on meeting Mr. Darcy here. Araceli wonders if it's some twisted lawyer discount scheme. Inside, the scene is a hellish nightmare. 5 figures lurk, not counting the cashier. 2 are lost in a haze, injecting neon blue heroin into each other's veins. Another pair gnaws on synth sandwiches, sprawled on the grimy floor. The 5th, a familiar face from the streaming underworld, makes her jaw drop. Always the beacon of misplaced cheer. Shalene waves from behind the counter.
Hello, woman trying to sue us. Hello, Mr. Lawyer Man.
Confused, Darcy smiles and offers a hello.
Hi, just call me Araceli. We'll probably be best friends by the end of this. Also, what the hell is going on here? Streisand effect. Business has doubled since your lawsuit. We now get 4 customers daily. I agree this case will take a lot of time.
I'm going to speak privately with their attorney. I'll be back. After nodding to Darcy, Araceli twists to speak with Shalene, but the worker states more matter of fact than cold.
There have been too many people. Can't talk. I'm busy with a customer moments. Okay.
Araceli replies, feeling a wave of loneliness wash over her. As things have shaken out, the only people she still talks with in this city are the shop people, her family, and Earthcore. The streamer woman who was leaving the first time Araceli entered the cursed shop perks her head up and around, meeting Araceli's gaze. With a weary look, the streamer's shoulders slump, as if carrying an invisible weight. Araceli racks her brain for the woman's name. Casey? Cassidy? Kimmy? But comes up empty. She decides to skip the name and nods, her lips pressing into a thin line. The fleeting connection feels hollow, deepening her sense of isolation.
Hard to keep track of old faces when you're swamped with new ones. I see. Sorry to hear that. You and the cashier seem close.
Araceli's eyes drift to a heroin user sprawled on the floor, looking like he's about to drift off into a permanent sleep. She glances back at the woman, both of them shrugging in a shared sense of futility, their expressions mirroring the hopelessness of the scene. In that moment, Araceli recalls the words of St. Francis of Assisi. All the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of a single candle. Despite the despair surrounding her, a flicker of compassion ignites within her, a call to see the inherent dignity in every person. She breathes deeply, determined to be that light in the darkness, even if it feels like she's the only one trying.
As fate would have it, I am suing her and this place. So, you're a rising star on a new platform?
The woman blushes, a fleeting moment of color in an otherwise bleak scene. She nervously tucks a strand of her hair behind her ear, her eyes darting around the shop.
I guess Shalene told you that. Yeah. I got into vlogging because it seemed cool. Lots of rambling. But people showed up because I was pretty. But only so long do people want to hear a woman talk. Yeah, I get that.
Araceli says, her mind flashing back to her first corporate dinner. As a teen, she was still deep in the hardcore punk scene, a rebel, in a world of suits. She remembers not knowing when to hold her tongue, but the CEO's comment about her creaking every time someone leaned an arm was a harsh reminder of the world she was up against. The worst part is everyone else agreed with him. That's when she realized what the corporate world was like, a place where dreams died. Her jaw tightens at the memory, her eyes narrowing slightly.
Yeah, so my views started to stagnate. That was when, I guess, I got a bit desperate. And how's it going for you now?
Araceli asks, her voice softening. Her brow furrows with concern. The woman's breath wavers, and both women frown.
I didn't mean to strike a sore spot for you. It was just genuine curiosity. And I don't know when to stop talking and... No, it's fine. I'll be real. I sometimes think trying to make it as a streamer was not worth it. It does suck the life out of you.
Cassie points to a tiny camera on the black choker she wore.
I rarely turn it off because some fans are very controlling. They need to know what I am doing every minute. But the controlling ones are the best tippers. One even bought me an expensive mint green sundress and had it shipped to my P.O. box. I get it. Some of the best fans are borderline stalkers. Yeah. And the constant need to be online, to keep up with the trends, to engage with chat. It's exhausting. You miss one stream and suddenly you're losing subscribers. It's like walking a tightrope. And the trolls? Don't even get me started. They're relentless. One wrong move, one slip up, and they're all over you. It's like they're just waiting for you to fail. Sounds like the punk scene in a way. Always someone ready to tear you down. But you keep going because it's what you love. Shit. Maybe it's inherent in any group. They judge you and demand you conform to clique norms. Exactly. It's a grind. But it's my grind. You know it. Right now, though, I told them I had a huge headache and felt like vomiting. Some offered to stick it out with me. I thought it was weird, but I guess it could be nice. I told them I was going to go to sleep. The cap makes it look like a dark room, and it cuts off the sound. But yeah, the fans love control. Well, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to pay the rent. I regret not having access to my inheritance. Your inheritance. I gave it up. I didn't want to have to comply with all of my parents' stupid ways of living and give up who I was. In hindsight, my brother Michael had it figured out. He got to keep his share and Rosa. Michael and Rosa? Your brother's the crosstalk guy? Yeah, he is. Not giving up his money is what probably helped him land the show. I should have learned from his example on how to balance my share with my dreams. Such a stupid idea. Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Araceli doesn't expect to be able to relate to the younger woman, but it turns out they share a commonality. Getting cut off from her inheritance is a dumb risk, but it's one Araceli grapples with taking. The people her uncle and father deal with are ruthless. They can ruin a life without needing to pool even an eighth of their resources into doing it. Now, there's the added burden of following her father and apologizing for every bad decision he makes. Cassidy's life is a harsh reminder of how bad things can get. Araceli can only hope her cosmetics company will take off. Otherwise, poverty might get her before the CEOs do. Her eyes fall on the man lying on the floor. He's still in the same position, limbs twisted like a forgotten puppet, skin gray. A strange, inconsistent gurgling sound comes from him. The scene hits her like a freight train, a memory flooding back. Her dad, that same graying hue creeping up his neck. The terror from back then is carved into her bones. The man is shocky, fading fast, his skin almost metallic in its whiteness.
Oh, fuck. What? This man's overdosing.
Araceli rushes to the man's side, her heart pounding with urgency. She reaches down and touches his neck, feeling the faint pulse, 27 beats a minute. His breaths are shallow, barely 5 a minute. She blinks, trying to clear the fog of terror that clouds her mind. A sense of moral duty, inspired by the teachings of St. Thomas Aquinas on social justice, floods her. Everyone deserves a chance at life, regardless of their circumstances. Araceli feels the weight of this truth as she struggles to think clearly, her hands trembling. The man's life hangs by a thread, and she knows she must act swiftly. The profound call to justice and mercy ignites within her, driving her to do whatever it takes to save him. For a brief moment, everything else fades away. The harsh neon lights, the distant chatter, the grime and decay of the deli, all with its chaotic mix of smells. All that matters is the life before her and the desperate hope that she can make a difference.
Where's the Narcan? Anyone?
Shailene, standing behind the counter, misses no beats. Her movements are quick and practiced. She reaches under the register and hauls out a small nasal spray.
I got it. This happens once in a while. It is good for fentanyl and heroin. Although here, most of the stuff that passes for heroin is either H-squid, which has been drying up since the main supplier was wiped out, or fentanyl. Oh shit, he does not seem to be responding.
The man blankly faces the ceiling. Araceli's breath wavers. The man who is with him stumbles out the door.
Hey, did they cut that stuff with Trank?
The guy does not turn back, but instead stumbles through the door. Narcan does not affect horse tranquilizers that they can cut fentanyl with, and sometimes heroin.
Cassie, Araceli, babe. Can one of you help me walk him? Moving sometimes helps. Yeah? Only if we are moving to the hospital.
Cassie glares at both of them. The three lift the man.
I can't leave the store. People would rob us blind. You've got no cash left in the drawer anyway. I know, but they could take the register and everything in the back. Besides, the lawyers are still on the second floor in a private meeting. Don't want such nice people to get robbed.
The three march towards the door, the addict groaning. His skin is damp and clammy, his feet dragging on the floor with each tug.
Streamer lady and I can get him there.
Araceli feels a moment of regret for falling into Shailene's patter of speech.
Sure. Just how I wanted to spend my night off. Great.
The half-comatose addict stumbles, almost bringing both women to the ground. Cassie places his arm over her shoulder, and Araceli does the same. He groans, and Araceli thinks she hears the death gurgle.
You better not die on us. God! Just hold on. We're in this fight together, no matter how messed up it is. How far to the hospital? 3 blocks? I hope I can do this. He's growing heavier. We have to do this quick. Several lawyers are here to discuss my settlement with Shailene and the deli. I was able to get Lawrence Darcy on this case. It's okay. I'll tell them you're running an errand for me. We won't settle tonight anyway. You can't get blood from a stone. It's not just their deli. The whole company is one step away from going Chapter 11.
3 blocks vanish in a blur of neon haze, their footsteps swallowed by the pulsating glow of street lamps and flickering hollow ads. The streets are flooded with all sorts of junk, turning half the battle into ensuring none of them trip on a plastic bag. The hospital looms ahead, carved from hollowed-out storefronts, a last refuge for the city's forgotten souls who lay in the street in their own piss. The building's facade is cracked and stained, the remnants of a pharmacy sign barely visible beneath layers of grime and graffiti. Inside, it's worse. The beds, if they can be called that, are little more than skeletal mattresses with springs poking through like exposed bone, their surfaces stained from the endless procession of overdose victims. Translucent sheets hang limp, framing the beds as blanket forts of misery. Cheap IVs cling to rusting stands, tubes running down like the veins of the dying drip life into hollowed-out bodies. When the 3 shuffle into the reception, the thick air is sharp with the scent of antiseptic, trying to drown out the rancid undertones of sweat, mold, and decay. Araceli's heart hammers in her chest, and her eyes are bleary from the nausea that comes with the heavy antiseptic smell. The dim fluorescent lights overhead flickers and buzzes like dying insects, casting a sickly greenish blue over everything. A doctor approaches, his coat stained by fluids that neither woman wants to know the origins of, and his eyes sag bloodshot like he worked 96 hours straight. With a gurney welded from a shopping cart and scrap metal typical to the streets, they lay the addict on the cart, and the doctor whisks the overdosing man away. With only the physical weight of the man now off their shoulders, the 2 women look at each other and huff. Sweat trickles from Cassie's forehead, down her cheeks, her hair matted from rain.
I didn't catch it before, but you look a lot more frazzled than I thought. Oh,
Araceli mumbles, blowing a loose curl pressed to her forehead upward. Her gaze fixes on the partially broken doors to the wards. They may not have known each other, but the woman hopes the overdosed man would make it.
this just hit too close to home. You did good.
Cassie places a hand on Araceli's shoulder. Tired, Araceli leans in, pressing her weight on the shorter woman's hand. Today was a long day.
So did you. Do you know any good restaurants? I wasn't at the sandwich shop for food. There's an oyster dive bar on the outskirts of this neighborhood.
Cassie opens her phone, ignoring the barrage of notifications from the up-down app. Before the screen changes, Araceli catches a glimpse of messages from fans demanding the next stream, a new level of entitlement that disregards Cassie's off-camera life. The streamer zooms out on a map from her current location. A place called the Shuckin' Circuit is labeled with a turquoise digital pin. If Araceli has to guess, it seems roughly 9 blocks away. Araceli meets Cassie at the oyster bar to get better food. Blue, turquoise, yellow neon signs and plastic palm trees frame the front entrance of the Shuckin' Circuit. The interior is less gaudy, a warmly lit tiled room leading to a big black elevator. The transportation device is connected to a camera and sensor at the doorstep, embedded into one of the palm trees, using artificial intelligence to recognize people entering the premises. The doors, in response, automatically open for the 2 women. Strangely, no buttons are mounted to the elevator's walls. This must be pre-programmed for only the top floor. It's technology that Amir, as a software engineer, took an interest in when she took him to her favorite rooftop restaurants in a new cyber city. Araceli sighs, wishing her cousin was with them. The soft hum of the elevator and the gentle sway of the ride offer a moment of calm, a welcome respite from the chaos outside.
He would probably fall in love instantly with this place.
She thinks. The elevator doors open to reveal the messy Atlanta skyline. It doesn't reach the cloudy heavens like New Cyber City's horizon. Its lack of cohesion brings a sense of emotional unrest, like a jagged bunch of teeth from a mouth that's already lost some. Random buildings and high-rises sporadically dot the view from the oyster bar, occasionally connected by small, enclosed bridges. In addition to the walkways, a vacuum tube railway connects all the buildings. Things become more transparent to Araceli.
Why walk these streets when you can travel by Skyrail anywhere you need to?
She thinks, opening her phone's camera and getting in position for a glamorous selfie.
I can take your picture if you want.
Araceli looks at the streamer and hands her phone, thanking her with a bright smile. The heiress leans back on the glass railing, a fragile barrier between her and a thrilling drop. She flashes a toothy grin, her eyes sparkling with mischief and excitement before going for more subdued expressions. The camera woman captures the joyful moment, taking multiple shots. Araceli scrolls through the images, her heart light, and a genuine smile spreading across her face as she gives Cassie a thumbs up, feeling a rare sense of connection and happiness in her life.
Thank you, but I don't think I'm in the right fit for the camera. You don't want any pictures as yourself. That seems sad. Oh, come on. I'm sure you've had off days yourself. You're not having an off day. But if you don't want any pictures, that's fine.
The two scan the dive bar for a hostess. She's nowhere in sight. They shrug at each other, finding a table close to the railing. Araceli huffs in the crisp, warm air blowing across the eatery, opens her phone, and calls Darcy to bring the lawsuit talks over. She wants these negotiations out of her hair. The shop itself is too much of every negative adjective in the English language for her to deal with.
You really are relentless with that suit. I got drugged. It made me feel powerless, like I was an abuse victim. It was empty, broken, and horrible. Word got out. My whole family would implode.
A waitress comes over to take their order, slipping them the restaurant's menu. An appealing list of seafood entrees appears before them. They decide to share a plate of 12 salty oysters and fried calamari as an appetizer, before settling on the main course. The vibrant chatter of other diners and the inviting aroma of the seafood creates a lively, youthful atmosphere. Araceli and Cassie exchange excited glances, feeling a shared moment of normalcy in the midst of their chaotic lives. The warm breeze from the open-air bar rustles through their hair, adding to the sense of carefree relaxation.
Your dad did do a number on Horizon Corp's reputation. That Paul Jones guy has been making an example of him lately.
As the streamer utters the sentences, her face sinks with each word, and she opens her phone, presumably to check all those missed notifications.
He never knew when to shut the fuck up. Stupid ass creep. Never understood his hype.
Araceli's lips twist in a smirk. This conversation disgusts her, but mentioning the public's gawking at a very private situation makes it much worse.
I don't know. He is rich and handsome.
A dreamy smile crosses Cassidy Rabbit's lips. Araceli, not meaning any offense, rolls her eyes. She perceives Cassidy Rabbit to be younger than her, but it doesn't stop her annoyance at yet another person buying into Paul's hype. Youthful exuberance mixed with a hint of skepticism fills the air between them. The scene feels almost like a clash of ideals, with Araceli's maturity and Cassie's hopeful innocence coming to a head. Despite the annoyance, there's a subtle undercurrent of respect. Maybe Cassie's naivete isn't entirely misplaced after all.
From someone who's met him? He ain't shit outside of his daddy's money. At least he doesn't harass me daily.
Cassie frowns, Araceli following suit. The portrait of the streamer's life is even more apparent than before. Araceli extends her hand, too far away to rest it on Cassie's shoulder. Still, the latter, understanding the gesture, clasps Araceli's hand.
The wackos will pass. So is the cycle of fame. Your real fans will stick around for whatever content you want to make. I don't know if I want them to stay for me. That seems to be why they watch in the first place. Like I said, your real fans will support whatever endeavor you go for. That is, if you still want to be a content creator. Your real ones will even support your retirement.
Cassie breathes, wanting to say something. Instead, she nods. The waitress reappears with a dish on the house. Tender white icing pound cake with slivers of vanilla poached rhubarb running through its center. The dining women stare at it and gush.
I love this place.
For 2 weeks, Cassie avoids going online. A sense of guilt crosses over her, and she realizes her fans are turning away to other streamers. She doesn't want to deal with the situation, but her top listers still manage to get a hold of her. Through the collar and augmented reality links, they taunt her at night. Anonymous 187 is the worst. The person pays their money and thus has the right to troll. But this is beyond the pale. He informs her the poll is clear. She should get involved in the Atlanta Vigilante war. She ponders getting him banned or deleted from her page. But he takes the time to like and comment on every one of her videos. When she checks, he drives traffic to the site from his. Sometimes it seems the person never sleeps and is dying to make sure she doesn't either. A pang of consciousness haunts her every waking minute.
What the hell am I planning?
Sleep-deprived, Cassidy Rabbit puts IG Boy by Baby Lasagna on the stereo and ponders her situation. She doesn't want to kill anybody, but it is the only way out. She feels trapped and helpless.
I need to get out of this hellhole.
Another solid week passes since she uploaded new content, and the pressure builds. Subscribers wane. Whatever comes next needs to be bigger, better, more edgy. No going back. She needs to make a splash to return to fame. Deep down, she knows the only action that will satiate her fans is blood. As she walks through her old neighborhood, examining the decrepit, rusted-out buildings she once called home, Cassie ponders how long she has lived here. She recalls walking through the streets, constantly feeling like a target was on her back, never knowing when she would catch a stray bullet. What would happen? The police would find her body somewhere. She is only thankful that she doesn't have any parents to be crushed by the news. Cassidy Rabbit staggers into the gun shop. She doesn't know what she is doing. Her feet move, but some invisible force pulls her. Of course, this hidden force is the legion of fans calling on her to jump on the vigilante war trend and put a bullet in a drug dealer. Be more extreme. Be more violent. The voice batters in her head. Cassie strolls into the gun shop, believing she is prepared to kill a person. But she isn't. As she looks at everything from the shotguns lining the wall to the shoulder-fired rocket launchers, a wave of regret and worry washes over her. Her hands tremble, and her heart races. The weight of her fans' expectations sit on her chest. She stands behind the glass case, gazing at these instruments of death. Hobbling to the counter, her hands shake. She slaps the 200 credits onto the countertop. The semi-bald, gray-haired gunsmith marches to her. What can I get ya?
I need a weapon.
Now, little lady, what's the occasion?
Something with stopping power.
Cassie didn't exactly know what that meant, but she heard it somewhere on TV and always thought it was fantastic. The pot-bellied man laughs. There's no such thing as stopping power. But what I'm thinking you're talking about is a high-caliber handgun, is that right? Cassie's proud to be in America, where the mass murders, for a few bucks, could be the best armed in the world. The politicians worked extremely hard to ensure this was the case.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I need something that can kill a man.
Well, with augmentations being what they are these days, personal defense systems, military grade, you'll need a slightly higher caliber. See, the thing about you is that you're a little bit smaller than your average person, so it's going to be hard for you, with those thin arms of yours, to level a ballistic weapon any larger than a 9mm. But that doesn't make much sense, does it? So you'll need something lightweight, yet with a bigger impact. The gunsmith peers at her for a moment. His eyes run the length of her frame from head to toe. I think I've got just the thing for you. And the man retreats to the back. The smith forces Cassie to stand looking up at the walls of the posters and political slogans and quotes about protecting against dictatorships. The man returns, carrying something in both arms, the same way a person holds a 2-foot-long hoagie wrapped in tinfoil. That's the only comparison Cassie draws on because she's never seen anything like it before. It was a giant cannon. This right here is one of our hottest sale items. It's called the Destiny Gun. Shoulder-fired cannon, guaranteed to make criminals take the room temperature challenge. The long and slender device enchants the streamer, and even though it is metallic silver, she couldn't help but notice how phallic the weapon appeared. Cassie glares at the man and narrows her eyes.
Are you trying to sell me a dick gun?
The seller's eyes dart around. Are you kidding me? It doesn't look like that at all. I mean, maybe if you squint your eyes or something, but I wouldn't go around tossing accusations. I run a reputable establishment. Sexual enhancements are strictly regulated, and those types of stores are required by law to contact your religious leaders.
They are?
Yeah. You ain't got a right to privacy in those matters, according to the courts. They admitted they got it wrong in the last century when they said you did.
Oh.
Anyhow, these are flying off the shelves.
But I see a whole pallet behind you.
Cassie peers around the man's shoulder. The man rushes and closes the door. Those are reserved for our pre-sale customers. Each one of those babies has got a home. You got the last one in stock. You should be glad you're the proud new owner of a Destiny Gun. Look! You want the weapon or not? Cassie nods and taps the computer, running the background check. Put your fingers on the pad. Put your finger on the pad. The streamer complies to his demand before she could gaze more upon the huge monstrosity slapped on the counter. The gunsmith says, Now look, more important than any weapon is the mindset you have going into any kind of gunfight. Let me ask you this. Are you prepared to kill someone? Cassie stops and gazes at the floor. The gunsmith must have read the hesitation on her face, because he said, Your eyes tell me you're not. Say, you ain't one of them influencers running around on that Vigilante war challenge, are you? Caught. Cassie decides to lie.
What? Of course not.
Those idiots are gonna get themselves killed. Out there, trying to rack up some kills with some drug dealers and post it online just to get a couple of likes. Kids these days will do anything for a couple views.
I can't believe it either.
Glad you're not one of them. But I can see that collar around your neck looks like those chokers those influencers wear. Cassie zips her hoodie high enough to hide her collar.
What do I owe you?
Laser gun plus a full battery charge will be $250. Cassie taps her wallet and pays out damn near the only money she left on her account. The gunsmith shows her the weapon. Gun safety. This little lever means don't kill. He points to the switch and then continues. And this one here, you flip it like this and it means kill. You got it? Point it, and you better be meaning to kill them, understand? Cassie nods, and she makes her way out. The store owner says something to stop her. One more thing. Shoot a man. And you better be ready to feel the consequences. I'm not just talking about the law, but I'm talking about the consequences on your conscience. Cassie thinks.
Maybe the consequence would be that I can sleep again.
Back at the shop, Darcy and Araceli meet. We do have a case. Your uncle's lawyer wants to take them down. It would be justice in his eyes, but it would mean that Shailene would be exposed to a lawsuit. I am working my best to make sure they don't put her in prison for having drugged you.
God, that would be terrible. She is such a nice person. I forgave her for drugging me. It was a bad situation. I felt weak and empty, but I could see it was not malicious. She did not know and spent much energy trying to please her few customers.
Well, there is your forgiveness, but then there is the idea of protecting the community. Should someone like this ever be allowed to serve our people again? Well, she made a horrible mistake, and now the company is threatening to sue her, saying she damaged its reputation by drugging one of its customers.
Well, maybe I could recant the story.
Then the company would sue you in a slap suit, and you could go to jail for filing a fake police report. Rubbing the back of her neck, Araceli evaluates her lawyer's expression before countering.
That's not the whole story, is it?
No, it's not. You are perceptive. The worst part is that they want the potential countersuit fees paid in labor because the Chai family breached their contract with the company. So the kid goes to jail, and the mother, well, she gets stuck running that business for an additional 20 years. This is more than just a legal case. It's about a community's integrity, roots, and the consequences of every action, rippling through generations.
Can't we argue that the contract was predatory?
Araceli asks, tears welling in her eyes. Darcy's head tilts down, and he shakes his head no. She slams her hand on the table.
God fucking...
Araceli cuts herself off, her eyes locking on Shailene and her mother. It's difficult to hold back frustration. She thought this would be an out for everyone.
I'm so sorry. This shouldn't have happened. I thought the lawsuit would benefit all of us.
Her hand falls on her forehead as restrained sniffles come from her. The phone continues to ring. Shailene reaches for Araceli's shoulder and rubs it.
You tried, really. Thank you for that. But we can't stay here. What do we do?
The Mega Smart is on its fourth ring, and Araceli recognizes that the phone call was coming from a local hospital. A sense of dread wells up inside her.
I got to take this. Hello? Is this Araceli Berladucci? Yes, this is she.
At that moment, Mr. Darcy's phone rings. He answers.
I am Nurse Sprocket from Emory University Hospital, Midtown. Your father has been injured. I think you should come and see him. Oh, God, is he okay? It is touch and go.
Darcy approaches her. Problem at the prison. Your dad attempted to hang himself. The tears flow down her eyes as she dashes out of the shop. Araceli notices the woman from the sandwich shop. Instead of being cloaked in a baggy hoodie like she was before, she's dressed deliberately, only in a push-up tank top, short shorts, and cat ear headphones that match the color of her shirt. The black choker that had a camera lens embedded in it is on. The camera, wrapped around the neck, is the trend video streamers were hopping on. Although Araceli enjoyed it when her favorite video streamers used the collar to film themselves, she still recognized it as a ploy to manufacture authenticity. The other major trend that these attention-seeking content creators jumped on, one that Araceli had to unfollow people over, was shooting perceived drug dealers live on video. Drugs were the bane of her existence, and she wished that there was no such thing as a drug dealer. But something felt wrong and unjust about putting bullets in their head. It felt more like an excuse to exercise bloodlust than true justice. Maybe she was just biased, as these trend chasers would have all the reasons to track her father down. And even if he proved her wrong over and over, she still wanted to believe he could still overcome the temptation of drugs. In the streamer's hand was a laser cannon. Of course, this woman was a clout chaser. Shailene did say she wanted to be famous.
You the girl from the deli? The one who helped that guy to the hospital with me. Cassidy Rabbit, wasn't it?
The women's eyes locked. The gun wielder had nothing but hesitation in her eyes. She was going to do something she would regret for the rest of her life. She knew. And it was for whoever would experience the murder from the perspective of her choker.
It's Cassie, not Jessie. I don't know what they're telling you to do, but if it involves a laser cannon, it's a bad idea. You know that. I don't have time for this. Yeah, well, me neither. So let's put the gun down and forget about it, okay? You know that guy we carried to the hospital? The doctors couldn't save him. That's a meaningless death that could have been prevented had some piece of shit dealer not sold him drugs. Don't you ever wish you could have killed the guy that hooked your dad? Leave him out of this. We've been left to fend for ourselves. We can't rely on anyone else to fix this.
It finally clicked for Araceli what was happening. She wanted to believe the streamer was above that kind of peer pressure, given how she talked about her inheritance. As Cassie started walking again, Araceli stepped in front of her.
Is your choker on?
The streamer nodded in response. Araceli bent over her so her eyes would be level with the camera wrapped around the streamer's neck, and said,
Hello to whoever's watching this. I know about your little shoot a drug dealer challenge. You all just have fun and pretend that whoever your girlfriend here shoots will solve all the city's problems. Fucking lynch mob. How dare you talk to my fans like that?
Araceli stood upright and stared square in the streamer's eyes. Inside, Cassie's whole body trembled as she thought.
I'm going to lose a lot of money, but damn, I don't want to be a murderer. Still, this bitch has no right to be in my business. Oh, what? Your fans want murder for ratings now? Is that it? Since when do you let a bunch of nobodies call the shots for you? Newsflash, they're my fans. I love them and they love me.
Cassie's choker blinked in approval.
Think, girl, think. I am thinking. I'm thinking about all the debts I can pay off by doing this. I'm thinking about all the public good that will come about from having one less piece of shit on the street. This is not murder. I turn in the body, and the government pays Me. It's time I assumed my place as a reputable vigilante.
In Cassie's head, fans screamed wildly in approval.
If this is how craven you are for cash, then you were never capable of being reasoned with.
Araceli stormed off, Cassie stomping in the opposite direction. Araceli thought the woman was better than this, but just like her dad, she would do anything to snag a quick buck. The thought crossed her mind that because she was on camera, if she did not call the cops, and the streamer did something stupid, she would be held liable for negligence. Araceli took out her phone and dialed 911. Cassie waited until the cover of night to sneak out into the city. She roamed searching for her target, anybody that fit the description. There was an app for finding these drug dealers. All she had to do was swipe right, and a list of people who were wanted, dead or alive, appeared. The funny thing about it, the criminals were worth the same either way. Cassie hobbled down the streets, strolling past bonfires and hearing the rumble of the Hyperloop train tracks. She listened to the distant screams of victims in the night. The voices of her fans shouted in her ear. They saw everything. They could talk to her whenever they wanted. They taunted her, pushing her to find somebody, and fast. Cassie gripped the laser cannon tucked under her jacket. Her heart pounded inside her chest. Or maybe it was just the underground tremors from the old subway line. Either way, she wasn't sure she could pull the trigger when the time came. Cassie found a dark alley and pressed herself against an old garbage can with no dumpster in the corner. The odor of trash filled her nose. At the end of the dead end of the back alley, an old addict swayed back and forth as he rifled through the dumpster.
No, he can't be the one.
She stalked down the block, past old Chinese food stores, prepaid mobile cell phone stores, and cash and carries. To protect the interiors of the shops, owners boarded them, so looting, which broke out due to the vigilante war protests, did not lead to their destruction. People rioted in the streets because the police did nothing to stop lawless citizens from their sense of justice. The wooden boards didn't stop looters. People broke into shops, loading every single product off the shelves. It wasn't long before the business owners fled the area. What came next was the economy of the street thugs sold products, being off the back of the trucks and claimed they fell off during transport drone flights. But everybody knew the real money was drugs. Either you were a buyer or a dealer, and often you were both.
It's just one big cycle of people poisoning each other.
Cassie latched on to the idea, thinking of them as cancerous cells that needed removal, and not the victims of a toxic society rationalized the practice for her. She detached from what she was about to do. Finally, a dark figure turned down the alley. Cassie couldn't be sure if it were a man or a woman, but the person was covered in a trench coat and a plastic bag to protect himself from the rain. Her scanner tagged them as prey. They pushed an old shopping cart with a broken wheel down the street. And even though it rained, the wheels squeaked. Their entire life's possessions rested in the cart, which wasn't worth $1 at a pawn shop. All Cassie cared about was the person matched the description of a man on the Bounty List app, and a ping hit her phone on the scan. As the man shuffled down the back alley, she knew he was her mark.
Shoot him! Off that H-head!
Cassie's neurocollar went wild. All of her 215 Platinum members screamed in her head to do it. Cassie wished premium members would be silent, but that's what they paid for, 24-hour access to Cassie. She turned into the back alley and cornered him. Hands trembling, the man rifled through an old dumpster. Cassie drew her weapon, raised it, and aimed at her target. She was a predator. He, the prey. "Shoot him! Off that H-head!" Her followers' screams crescendoed Just as she was about to pull the trigger, the man pivoted. With the rain and the man's dark hood, she couldn't be sure if he gazed into her eyes, but she sensed him peering directly into her soul. "Do it! Do it!" Cassie's finger squeezed around the trigger. Another hair's weight of pressure on it would fire. Her hands trembled as her sights fixed on her victim. She had him, but for some reason, she couldn't do it.
No, this isn't me.
But in the millisecond to decide to drop the weapon, her finger grazed the trigger. The gun spasmed and shot a straight laser beam into the drug addict's abdomen. Frozen with disbelief, Cassie trembled. Sheets of rain cascaded. She dropped the gun and approached the body. A sickening feeling swirled in her stomach. Prescription medication filled the shopping cart, and not fentanyl or any other hard drug of choice for hardcore users. No, these drugs were knockoffs, generics. Diabetes, heart medication. Cassie's hands rifled through the pill bottles.
No!
Compared to the shadow-choked, neon-lit med centers cluttering the streets, Emery's clinical fortress is blindingly white, sterile enough to burn. Araceli's vision swims as she stumbles through the pristine lobby, her boots squeaking against the tile as she slams into the receptionist's faux wood desk. The woman behind it recoils, wide-eyed and twitchy, like a cornered animal.
Is Alberto Berladucci here? I'm his daughter. They told me he was rushed in. Oh, yeah. Your name is Araceli Berladucci, right?
Araceli nods frantically, her heart pounding like a rebellious drum.
Your father is in room 404.
She doesn't wait for thanks to fully form before sprinting for the stairwell. Her pulse, a frantic tattoo in her ears. Each step is a collision with cold concrete. The world blurs around her as she storms toward the 4th floor. Sterile white again, the color of death in his chrome jungle. Her breath hitches. Fear and determination battling in her eyes. The doors to his room swing open, and there he is, still and silent beneath the fluorescent light. His veins tapped by needles, feeding him the will to survive. Red skin sprawls on his neck, like the ugliest choker in existence. Alberto's body lies in a small gurney bed. A large crucifix hangs above it.
Oh, Dad.
Araceli mutters, flashing between anger and heartbreak. Why? Why now? The son of a bitch didn't have the right to do this. This isn't the path to redemption. Thankfully, his chest rises and falls in even intervals. Breath labored, eyes closed to her rage. She squeezes his hand, knuckles whitening. Tears roll down her face, but she steels herself, her eyes narrowing.
Come on, asshole. You can't die on me now, not after everything you've done. You make life worse for everyone, and when it looks like you have to face the consequences, you try to avoid them. You impulsive, wrathful motherfucker.
Araceli stops. Tears roll down her flushed cheeks as the thought hits her like a freight train in the night. The lawsuit. The thought to take them all down. Her vendetta burned within her like hell's fire. But now's the time to douse those flames with grace and redemption. Shailene and her family don't deserve this, especially not what Araceli put them through.
I'm impulsive and wrathful, too. I wonder who I learned that from. Damn, I hate being like you.
Araceli squeezes her father's hand. Her tears flow like the River Jordan.
I bet if you were awake, you would help me sue the place out of existence. We're susceptible to our worst whims like that. At least, I've come to understand that now. I want my whims to be helping others and creating better. Maybe I can be a builder instead of a destroyer. I'm not going to follow through with the suit.
A pause fills the room as she remembers Shalene's invitation to help clean up the deli. If she couldn't help her father clean his mess, she would at least atone for her actions by allowing someone else to clean up.
You know what? The cashier invited me to help clean up her shop. I think I'll take her up on that offer.
She leans in and kisses his forehead.
Live, okay? You've gotta live.
As she turns to leave, the door squeaks open, revealing Giancarlo and Amir, shadows lurking in the stark hallway. Amir holds a vase with tulips in bright pinks and yellows, a cruel contrast to the monochrome world inside the room.
Hi, guys. Just visited Dad and talked to him. That's all.
What did you talk about? Amir asks softly as he slips past her, placing the flowers beside the bed.
Oh, nothing much. Just told him to get well soon.
Are his vitals stable?
Somewhat.
Good. I think I'm going to give him a stern talking to. Oh, lay off him, Dad. He just tried to kill himself, for God's sakes. I should have had another one. Brothers gotta have each other's backs, and sometimes that means cursing him out for the stupid shit he does. You, as an only child, would understand. As their bickering fills the sterile room, Araceli steps into the hallway and cries, feeling like a prodigal daughter returning to find her father's soul not in wrath, but grace. Her hands go to her face. This momentary salvation feels as surreal as a punk rock anthem, unapologetically raw and real, gritty yet redemptive. In a way, it's like quicksand by the story so far. She realizes that sometimes rebelling against the chaos inside meant embracing the unpolished truth of forgiveness and change. A hand pats her shoulder. It's Amir. Wait. Be careful out there. I wanted to ask you if you heard the news yet. The two cousins step back in the hospital room as Giancarlo scolds his unconscious brother.
What news?
Not far from the deli you're suing, some streamer shot a drug dealer on camera, except he was hauling medical supplies in from Canada. Bitch going to jail. Giancarlo turns his head to face Araceli and Amir, interrupting his train of chastisement. Yeah, her name was like Dolly Bunny or something. Amir snaps his fingers, grossed out by his father's lack of knowledge of people. Her name was Cassidy Rabbit. She was hot and cool. Her big claim to fame before this was she danced topless on a roof.
You watched that?
Maybe. I'd stop running your mouth if I were you. Dad's just upset that we'll get sued again.
Why would Horizon... Wait. Are you guys involved in Uptown?
Yeah, we own 61% of the company. As she waves her hands wordlessly, huffing for air, her skin flushes red with guilt. All this time, a discussion with Uncle Giancarlo or even Amir could have stopped these killings.
Why, Uncle?
Business is business, my beautiful niece. Araceli's mind drifts to Otto Beardman's famous phrase, "It's nothing personal, just business." But how could it not be personal, especially when people's lives were on the line?
I can't believe you let people endanger Dad.
I'm not responsible for what idiots say on my platform. That's what Supreme Court told me.
Oh, come on.
The woman turns away from her uncle and to her cousin.
Amir, please, tell me you don't agree with this nonsense.
Amir falls deathly silent. Araceli's jaw drops, quietly hoping her cousin would say something. He doesn't share his dad's ruthless apathy. Did he? Sells. Uptown's just a platform.
What the fuck does that mean?
It means that Uptown was only a vessel for shit that would have appeared anyway. If we didn't do it, It was going to be someone else.
But the algorithms, they encourage anger over joy.
That's engagement 101. We need them there, tipping our staff and paying our monthly subscription fee. The more emotions they display, mainly anger and some sex, the more likely they are to feel fulfilled. It's basic Freud. Eros and Thanos. Sex and death. A primal scream of anger erupts from Araceli. She couldn't be here anymore. Wordlessly, Araceli slipped away, her hand ghosting over the stairwell door handle. All her life, she convinced herself that her dad was different from her uncle. But in the end, they were both businessmen who let money drive their life. Briefly, her mind flashes to stories about the men with Aunt Vivian drinking on the Chattahoochee. She only hopes Amir hadn't started drinking with them. Deep inside, she worries that all of Cassie's problems were caused by her family. Behind her, the fluorescent light buzzes, harsh and unyielding, just like this city, just like her. Fear sinks into Cassie's stomach. The body lies in the alley. A mixture of water and blood swirls around him. She approaches, takes off his hood, and V-Boy's twisted face stares back. His wide eyes stare up empty. The light vanishes from them. When the world puts something evident in the way, an intelligent person doesn't walk. A straight beam burned a hole through his clothes. Cassie sees cleanly through his torso. Cassie looks on in horror as V-Boy's eyes find hers. The shock in his eyes makes Cassie feel V-Boy's pain as he realizes he was shot by his best friend. Panic steals her breath. She rushes down the street. She needs to be somewhere, anywhere, safe. 4 minutes later, she finds herself in V-Boy's garage. Home. Safe. Indeed, everything that happened tonight must be a bad dream. A dream inspired by the voices in her life. She needs to drown them all out. She goes to the iPad, hooks up to the stereo system speakers, and touches the glass. Everything I Didn't Say by 5 Seconds of Summer played. She bursts into tears and falls on a cot in the back. Grabbing a pillow from under the sheet, she places it on her head to suffocate herself. But of course, that's not possible. She thrashes around, and a book falls from the padding. Did V-Boy keep a diary? God, how did she not know? Leaping up and sitting beside, she cracks it open and reads the pages. Her horror only worsens. V-Boy was Sinpaul 29. She reads his entries in stunned silence. He did it to help build her confidence. Committed to ensuring when she was in video mode, she heard at least one cheerful voice about her stuff. When she got to the point about how proud he was of her accomplishments, she thinks,
God, he loved me. He was the only one since Abby and I broke up.
His words were so evident in the book. The sick and pathetic fool. He would do anything for her. And she killed him. But she is angry and betrayed reading the diary. How many of her other followers are people she knows from her life? People who are just there to mock her secretly. A wave of shame about her actions crashes in her. Not having any technical skills, she focuses on Amanda, her ex-girlfriend's sister. A bit of a goth chick who hung mostly with her twin. The girl was very tech-savvy. She searches her phone deck to see if she could hire the girl. She types a message to Amanda. But the noise of rumbling combat boots and screeching of squad cars pulling up outside echoes in. She hears car doors slamming shut and knows It's all over. A wall of police enter the garage as Cassie finishes sending her message. The cops are just a sea of black and blue uniforms, their guns pointed at her. They instruct her to kneel and place her hands behind her head. She complies. Cassie sits in the empty, dark hallway of the Rancor Budget Hospital in a psychiatric ward for violent behavioral health patients. Elbows pressed to her knees, her heart beats inside her chest. The thought of what she had just done torments her. Mentally, the influencer ponders the worst-case scenario. How could she ever walk the streets of Atlanta, knowing she murdered her best, indeed only true friend? Would she have to abandon Shailene, the only person she considered family? Sure, they fought and bickered, but what would Cassie do without her? The Chais were the only people who accepted her, and Deli said they cared about her for every meal at Darknet Deli. Would she ever see release to the outside world again? Would she, as the prosecutor sought, be given the death penalty at trial? Upon arrival at the forensic psychiatric unit, the law demands her choker be excised, not just unlocked. The metallic tendrils entwined with her spinal cord are extracted, delicate as a surgeon's stitch, leaving a trail of tingling numbness in their wake. Stem cells harvested from her nasal tissue are immediately repurposed and injected by the dozens, over 200 punctures, each dose with a microscopic promise to repair the severed nerves. The stem cells, suspended in a biosynthetic solution, weave neural scaffolds to bridge the gaps the extraction had left behind. Her body shudders, rebelling against the invasion of the synthetic organic cocktail. The queasiness sets in, a wave of nausea crawling up her throat as her system struggles to adapt to the rewiring inside her spine. A floor-cleaning robot whirs by her ankles, its circular frame spinning, its noisy vacuum uncaring to Cassie's current plight. The vacuum hums now. Its hypnotic motions place Cassie deeper into her thoughts, but she struggles with the nausea in her stomach. Prisoners from around the unit grumble to each other as they traverse the metal landing. She doesn't know what went on outside the prison walls. Inside, a rehabilitation crew of doctors meet to discuss the relative benefits of a behavioral modification regime or surgical procedures to reduce her chances of having prison misconduct. Unsure if the doctor is trustworthy, Cassie's heart pounds in her ears. With its precision surgical arms, an AI surgical table could fix and eliminate her violent tendencies with a 99.9% success rate. The rest of the prison's fancy behavior modification program would be kept in check to ensure that no privatized corporate prison staff would get hurt. The alternative was a massive medication regime, a behavior chain analysis, and liberal use of rewards and punishers to keep her in line. Cassie's fingers tremble as her mind dances with the possibility of a human doctor making a mistake and eliminating her personality or memory. Of course, if her memory of killing V-Boy gets eliminated, it might be a merciful action. It would spare her a lifetime of anger and regret about the worst action she ever did. Outside, other prisoners drop a few coins into the vending machine, and 2.3 seconds later, it spits out a sludge-like mixture of coffee into a styrofoam cup. Briefly, her mind ponders if she exposed herself to the other women prisoners. One of them might buy her a cup. She recognizes it as a truly sick thought. Her prison-assigned therapist called it stinking thinking, but all Cassie could think was,
But what else do I have at this point?
a lifetime as a brain-damaged inmate awaits her. Someday, she will be a faded beauty behind the walls of a corporate-owned and run prison, doing pre-approved tasks by federal prison industries to earn nickels and dimes to exercise her right to work, and the corporation's right to make huge amounts of money by selling her work. Maybe if they did not give her the death penalty, she would get assigned to furniture making. A week later, the courts show her mercy and allow her to hold her phone for a few minutes pre-trial. She sits, flipping through her phone, trying to distract herself from the inner voice berating her for even considering hurting someone else.
God, how could I be so stupid? Had I stopped loving Jesus for up-down likes?
Even though they were not close, Araceli comes through, suggesting Lawrence Darcy, a well-known attorney, be part of her counsel. He's better than the public defender, but the influencer is unsure by how much. His GEB intelligence did manage to have courts dismiss 40 of the 127 charges against her. Darcy babbles on in the background about trial strategies. The man's nice enough, but she believes he did not have a chance, especially with all the evidence. The courts managed to get a video of her killing. No one had told her that the damn video service she worked on was under legal obligation to turn all information of a crime immediately to local justice. The police have her committing the killing mere seconds after it happened. Barely hearing him, Cassie searches through her phone. She needs a distraction. A few unopened emails give her temporary relief from her thoughts, although the buzz of her ideas is still in the background of her head. She finds one from Amanda. She clicks it open.
Hey, Cassie. Long time no hear. Speaking of which, how is the mental health world behind bars going? Anyhow, I looked into your subscribers. Yeah, my estimate is that 60 to 70% of them are chatbots. They are designed to echo information. That anonymous 187 is what they call a coordinator. Often, it is a pre-programmed AI who sets the tone for the other bots to support and follow. Interestingly enough, it seems to really want to get you into the war. I wonder what its motive is. I am pretty zapped, but give me a couple of days, and I can tell you who is behind it. Hang in there. Help is on the way.
For a second, Cassie, who'd never prided herself a thinker, wonders why someone would feed the vigilante wars. Is it a person, foreign gov, or corporation? The swirl in her head makes it hurt. She starts the message and moves to the next message in their folder. Time to renew your annual subscription. Considering suicide? Try the most humane methods with Shady Oaks Assisted Death Facility. Finance your next steak dinner with the Rancor Platinum Card. Treat yourself to silkworm protein tonight. Tap. Delete. The title of the next email catches her eye, buried in the middle of a bunch of spam. But she recognizes the sender's email immediately. From Michael Buckley. MB reporting at rancornews.net. Subject: You're the only one I trust with this. Cassie feels the gut punch of regret. How many years has it been since she last talked to her brother? And why is he suddenly contacting her after all this time? Would he come to her aid and pay? To get an actual attorney? Not some state-appointed do-gooder? And then she boils with anger as she remembers exactly why she stopped talking to him in the first place. She clicks open the email. Dear Cassie, I miss you, sis. I know you tried to live your life your way, and I respected that. But now, as you wait for your trial, I wanted to help. I've enclosed a number for one of the station attorneys. If you contact him, he'll help with your trial. At least, I hope he can make a difference. For me, I might never see you again, even if you get out. Something's come up. I can't tell you all the details now, but just know I tried doing the right thing. and I got caught up in something big. I probably shouldn't be sending this to you, but you're the only one I trust to do the right thing. Everything you need to know about the Vigilante War is attached. Right now, my wife and I have a brief vacation planned, but after I get back, I plan to go live with this information. Hopefully this helps in your trial. Wish us luck. Love, Michael. P.S. I'm sorry for everything. I've always wished we were closer, like we were as kids. The years have been so hard on us both, and I hate that we've grown apart. Maybe someday we can find our way back to each other. Until then, stay strong. Leaning into her phone, Cassie sees the attached file, a text doc titled Vigilante War Exposé. She raises a hand for her defender to stop speaking, clicks it, and reads. Headstones speckle a large grass cemetery field. A gentle breeze blows over the area. A small android wanders through the grounds, staring at different headstones. He comes to one which reads Pierre, V-Boy LeBlanc. It is his link to the dead, a Portugal-based company's memorial. On top of the stone, a small image of V-Boy dances topless under the sun. His skin glistens, and the holographic abdominal muscles are far greater than he ever sported in life. On the ground sit 2 glasses of champagne and a bottle between them. A light sun shower starts. The robot picks up the glass. Behind him, a woman's voice calls out,
Chummer!
The android spins to the sound. As it does, it brushes the outside of the grave's holographic display. A blue electric light jumps from the stone to the android's chest. Its body jerks violently, circuits momentarily overloaded. The jolt sends data flooding through its system. Transient connection to the life of the deceased. A fleeting moment of memory transfer. The android steadies itself, the electric surge fading, leaving a lingering imprint of V-Boy's essence within its synthetic frame. Its synthetic heartbeats quicken, a strange echo of human emotion running through its processors. It feels a pang of loss, an unanticipated sadness. Its eyes redden and then return to electric blue. The sky darkens slightly, the atmosphere heavy with the soft promise of rain, adding to the eerie poignancy of the moment. This unexpected rush of emotion leaves the android momentarily dazed, grappling with feelings it was never designed to comprehend. Cassie?
Where the hell are you, Chummer?
Coming, mistress. As the android turns, a moment of panic strikes it. He does not know why, but he needs to find someone named Cassie. Araceli meets with Shailene to help tidy up the shop some days later. The city's neon glow slices through the smog, casting jagged shadows as they work. Araceli sighs, her shoulders tense. A deep line creases her forehead. The insult to Greasy Spoons appears worse than usual, especially after the harrowing shootout between their streamer friend and a drug dealer. It's a nightmare to know the woman is in a mental facility, awaiting judgment on her competence to stand trial. A sense of loss is particularly hard on Shailene, who does not speak of the situation, but just says,
My friend hurts, and I hurt with her.
The thought makes Araceli's stomach churn, and she bites her lip, eyes narrowing with concern. Rumor has it Cassie got a copy of her victim's journal and cried over it, seeking solace and peace. Araceli's heart aches at the thought, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Worse still, her father has not recovered. After accessing her dad's digital journal, when she went to his old house, Araceli develops a better understanding of his pain. Her jaw clenches with determination as she reads his words. In the punk ethos, she finds a resolve to face the chaos head-on, standing firm against the system's cruelties. Despite the turmoil, she and Shailene work with a sense of rebellion and solidarity, refusing to let the darkness consume them. Shailene glances at Araceli, a flicker of a smile crossing her lips, a shared moment of unspoken support. Araceli returns the smile, feeling a spark of hope amidst the deepening gloom. They continue to clean, their movements synchronized, their shared defiance palpable in the air. After scrubbing the floor by the counter and using liquid acrylic to bring up a shine, Shailene leads Araceli to the back of the shop, clutching a flimsy paper napkin. Better than nothing in this hellish dive. Honestly, it is hell, and poor Shailene is trapped working as a slave to the Darknet Deli chain for eternity, or at least until she dies. The weight of grief hangs heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the hopelessness that surrounds them. Araceli's heart aches for Shailene, knowing that this life is a prison with no escape. The sorrow in Shailene's eyes is unmistakable, and it mirrors the pain Araceli feels deep within her own soul. They tried to take on the system and lost. There was nothing else that could be done. Always the optimist. When asked how she is doing, Shailene would often say,
At least it is steady work. In this economy, some would kill for that.
The kitchen is as much of a mess as she expects, with grease stains forming a mosaic of decay. If the Chais are forced into eternal servitude for this grimy sandwich chain, they might as well have a clean workspace. Shailene guides Araceli toward the oven, determination etched coldly on her face. The weight of their shared burden hangs heavy in the air, but they press on, driven by a fierce resolve to find some semblance of order amidst the muck and grime.
Okay, now we're gonna move the oven an inch over.
Shailene orders, her voice carrying a quiet strength, like the flow of water around a rock, yet still razor-edged. Araceli grabs the only other grabbable corner and slides the oven. They move with purpose, embodying the Taoist belief of effortless action, wu-wei. Shailene's calm determination reminds Araceli of the power in yielding, finding balance and harmony even amidst chaos. The kitchen's mess feels less daunting as they work together, their movements fluid and synchronized, like a river carving its path through the solid stone.
Oops.
Araceli and Shailene share a small giggle, their eyes momentarily brightening with genuine amusement. The joy is fleeting, though, as a sudden hiss interrupts them. Without hesitation, both jump back, fear flashing across their faces. Araceli bolts out of the kitchen and into the dining room, her heart pounding, hands shaking with adrenaline. Shailene, however, doesn't follow. She stands 3 steps back, her eyes locked on the stove, a mix of determination and resignation etched into her features. Her body is tense, but she doesn't move, seemingly rooted to the spot. Araceli's mind races, worry clawing at her as she tries to make sense of Shailene's stillness. For a moment, Araceli's life flashes before her eyes, her breath catching in her throat. She forces herself to stop and think. Has her friend become as suicidal as her dad once was? The feeling of being trapped often brings those dark thoughts. Swallowing her fear, Araceli ventures back into the kitchen, her steps slow and more cautious. She reaches out, her hand trembling, to touch Shailene's arm gently.
Hey.
Araceli whispers, her voice laced with concern and empathy. She tries to circle to see Shalene's face. Her eyes search for any sign of response.
What are you doing? We need to go. This is dangerous.
Shalene pivots to face her, snapping her fingers at eye level. Struggling, she whips out a lighter from her pants pocket. Her expression is a mix of determination and desperation. Her hands tremble slightly as she clicks the lighter, the small flame flickering in the dim light of the kitchen. Thinking her friend suicidal, Araceli takes 2 steps back.
Or this could be an opportunity.
She clicked the lighter on, held it to the napkin, and threw it toward the hissing.
Run!
Immediately, the gas catches fire, and the flames climb up, engulfing the grease-stained sheetrock wall. Both women make a mad dash out of the building. Araceli's mind reels. This is it. Her life is at an end. The flames represent the chaos and destruction of her own existence, a stark reminder of her vulnerability and insignificance in the grand scheme. She feels a void opening within her, a sense of futility washing over her, questioning the meaning of her struggles and existence. Every step away from the blaze intensifies her inner turmoil, her thoughts echoing with the existential dread of her precarious reality.
Oh, God. I hoped to do much more.
Each step brings them closer to the door. The flames lick and crackle from behind, the heat almost unbearable. Sweat beads on Araceli's forehead, mixing with tears of fear and desperation. As they reach the street, a firm boom echoes behind them. Both women drop to the ground, hugging the asphalt, covering their heads, yelping from the noise. The shop is engulfed in flames, the light reflecting in their wide, panicked eyes, like a chaotic symphony of destruction. Araceli's heart races, pounding against her ribcage. The shadow of the deli's sign looms ominously over the street, a grim reminder of their rebellion. After crawling further away from the building, army style, both women stand up, legs trembling, adrenaline still pumping through their veins. Araceli feels a mix of relief and dread, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Shalene's face is pale, her eyes haunted by the near-death experience they've just escaped. They exchange a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. This fire may have been necessary, but it's a reminder of the chaos and danger that surrounds their lives. The sense of vulnerability is overpowering, but so is their shared resolve. They will face whatever comes next together.
You know, you could have gotten us killed.
A small metallic robot walks up to Araceli and Shalene, having heard everything. Shalene gasps as they whip around to face the robot. It gleams under the neon lights, its eyes glowing with an almost mischievous curiosity. Araceli holds her tongue, her thoughts a chaotic swirl of potential outcomes. The robot tilts its head, emitting a series of beeps and chirps that almost sound like laughter. Araceli suppresses a laugh, her face a mix of astonishment and amusement. Shalene's mouth twitches into a hesitant smile. My name's Pierre. Friends call me V-Boy. Is this the place Cassidy Buckley hangs out at? He extends his hand. Araceli mutters under her breath, her eyes twinkling with the absurdity of it all. Here was a robot that could attest that they burned down the shop.
Yeah, but she's not.
It looked at each of them before turning its gaze to the shop. The robot, seemingly pleased with its role, buzzes off, leaving the women to their peculiar fate. Despite the bizarre situation, the robot's CPU appears focused elsewhere. Suddenly, it bolts inside. Must find Cassidy. The robot iterated, its mechanical voice echoing through the chaos.
Well, there goes the only witness. I guess we are lucky.
Araceli stares at her dumbfounded before turning back to the shop. As she watches the flames lick into the night sky, her thoughts turned to the concept of redemption.
Sometimes to rebuild, things have to be torn down.
A mixture of hope and despair swirls in Araceli's mind. She thinks of the biblical story of the Great Flood and Noah's Ark, a destructive act that paved the way for a new beginning. This fire, too, could be their cleansing flood, a chance to start anew. Shailene nods, understanding the more profound meaning in her words.
Let's hope the ashes give rise to something better. Araceli.
It is the first time Araceli remembers Shailene using her name. A chuckle escapes Araceli's lips. As they watch the fire consume the old, Araceli prays for the strength to build a new future, one founded on the principles of forgiveness and grace. Rising from the ruins like a phoenix, the cursed Darknet Deli goes down in a blaze that looks like it came straight from hell. Mesmerized by the blaze, Araceli thinks.
You know what? Serves it right. The Chais deserve better than this. Maybe we should get out of Dodge.
Araceli pivots back to Shailene and states,
1-800-GLAM-ROCK. Huh? Oh, right. That's my phone number. Let me know when you're around. I got some fancy restaurants I've been thinking about taking you to.
As the cherry on top, she follows up her attempts at flirting with a wink. As the wink progressed, Shailene's cheeks flushed a light red.
Really? I'm free now. What about the Darknet Deli gone? What restaurant were you thinking?
Araceli smiles and grabs the lady's hand, dragging her toward her car. Rather than further surround her with the synthetic meats of Darknet Deli, Araceli would treat Shailene to natural oysters. Thank you for listening to Vigilante War, Case 007, Killing for Content. Script by Joseph and Marisha Cautilli. Based on a short story novella by Joseph Cautilli, Marisha Cautilli, and Peter Kim. Director and producer, Roma Gray. Executive producer credits, Marisha and Joseph Cautilli. Narrated by Joshua Banks and Shanalee Carton.